And I just want to welcome Kash Kelly onto the stage. Kash, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, bro.
And Tim Hale, I just want to welcome Tim Hale onto the stage as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Both of them J6ers. This is going to be interesting. This is going to. There's lots. I listened to Kash's commentary on the debate, and he said many things that I was very interested in. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, learning a lot about prison life and the various types of gangs. I was like, tell me more about this. This is so interesting. As someone reads a book, you could read some books, and I haven't read any books on U.S. prisons, so it was interesting. Other than like the data and the stats, obviously, in terms of the number of incarcerations, but like other than watching the movie Oz, the TV show Oz, almost watching every episode of it as a kid, I've not really experienced it. So I don't have the experience or the knowledge on it. So I'm really interested in that, and also as well as your experience with Jake Lang. I think obviously he's been positioned himself as someone who is pushing a certain narrative against Muslims, trying to cause kind of civil war in the United States of America. There are a number of large accounts pushing him as well, and I don't know if it's because they're being paid or if it's some kind of the part of the same agenda or whatever it is, but definitely I'm looking at a lot of the large accounts immediately pushing out something he tweets. So we want to talk about that as well. But first of all, I want to start at the beginning with both of you, really. And let's go with Kash first, and then Tim will get you in as well. Kash, obviously you're both J6ers.
Yeah.
Listen to your commentary, both of yours, Tim as well. You wouldn't be the prototypical type of people I would have assumed would end up in Jan 6 in terms of, storming the Capitol, as one would call it. So tell us, first of all, you, Kash, or even both of you, how you want to do this, whichever way, if you both want to jump at the same time. But what caused you to basically go to the Capitol on Jan 6?
Well, for me, it was a couple things. So I watched in 2020 how, in 2019, how we all went on lockdown and we was locked inside of our houses. You couldn't go to churches, you couldn't go to work, you couldn't do nothing. Kids couldn't go to school. And all the while they had people outside protesting, like no mask, no nothing. They just outside doing their thing while everybody else we're all shut down. Like normal people are shut down. You can't go do nothing. And that was number one. That upset me, because you would have seen like mass protester deaths or something from COVID if that was, the thing. And we didn't see it, but everybody else got locked down. And then the other thing for me was the election. I felt like the election was stolen from us. And then beyond that, just using my constitutional right to protest.
So you were a Trump supporter then? You're a right-wing conservative?
Yeah, I was actually part of the Trump campaign trail in 2020. I had a massive platform. My Facebook had like 380 something thousand people on it.
Wow.
My Instagram had 256,000 people on it, and they deplatformed me when January 6th happened. They took my whole following, so I had to come home from prison and restart from scratch, ground zero.
So you're like a big content creator, essentially. That's why you're supporting Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you spot him in 2016 as well, or was it 2020 the first time?
2020 was my first time. I really wasn't into politics at all, until 2019 came around, and I had a video go viral. And it wasn't nothing political. I just was looking at my own community, and I'm like, I see people showing up for the BLM protesting about corrupt police officers and police brutality, and I'm like, this ain't happening where I live at. So why are y'all, against the police over where we live at? That's not the case where we're at. We ain't got no police killing nobody where we're from.
Where you from?
And the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
I was born in East Chicago, raised in Hammond, Indiana. Okay. But it's all the same, you know what I mean? And we didn't have none of the stuff that they were saying on the news. We never seen it. So why are all these people coming from out of state, literally from other states, to come to our city and protest about something that's not even happening? You know what I'm saying? So that video went viral. It was called Black Lives Matter, but when are Black Lives gonna matter to us? And I did one talking about how stupid, people are. You gonna cause martial law? And I just kept on going, just making content, and people started messaging me, asking me my politics. They're like, well, what are you, a Democrat or a Republican? I said, I'm a Democrat, because I'm black, you know what I mean? So I'm a Democrat. And they was like, really? You don't sound like a Democrat. I'm like, all right, well, what's that supposed to mean? Say, well, how you feel about Trump? I said, well, you could go look on my YouTube, right? I did a video in Trump Tower when I was 23, when I was doing music. And I always thought Trump was dope. Everybody did. If anybody that was a rapper, you thought Trump was the man, right? But when he became president, I start seeing all the clips like everybody else and all the news. So I'm like, man, he's a racist. When they ask us, how you feel about Trump? My man, he's racist. You know what I mean? That's it. was like, really? You really think that? I said, yeah, I watched the clips. They said, man, go watch the speeches. So I start watching the speeches in their entirety. And I'm like, oh, so they lying on him. You know what I mean? So then I started making clips about that, showing the full context. And it just mutated into me being into politics. And I
Interesting.
just amassed a huge following.
And that's interesting. And that makes sense because I have the same opinion as you in the sense of if you look at the BLM riots, they largely attacked working class areas. So they were rioting against oppression, possibly of the working class or the disenfranchised or whatever you claim it is going to be. But then no affluent area was hit. It was all actually areas where there was working class people, whether they were black people, minorities, or even working class white people. So yeah, I agree with you. So I can see why someone who has a rational thought would come to that conclusion. And then Tim, with you, what about you? You from your background, I see that you were like some kind of comedian. Although I did see you with a video, like I don't know if the Hitler video or whatever it was. I don't know if that was that. But give us your background in terms of what led you from politically, or where you're from, and politically what led you to Jan 6.
Yeah, that Austrian painter video got me in a lot of trouble. Apparently, So I'm from New Jersey. Politically, I'm an independent. I actually ran a labor union before Jan 6 or on Jan 6. I was also a weapons contractor for the Navy, so I actually got off of an overnight shift right before I threw on a suit. I went to the Capitol in a suit and tie. I was just there to hear a speech. I didn't intend to go to the Capitol building. I just went to the area called the Ellipse where Trump was going to be giving his speech. And then, I don't know, I assumed that they would certify the vote or they wouldn't, whatever. And then I would go home. I had no idea there was anything that was actually going to happen like a couple miles down the road at the Capitol. So that was my intention. I was a history major. I'm a smartass, but I do love my country, and I take history and politics kind of seriously. And in my eyes, this was either going to be it would either be President Trump's last public speech as president in his one term, or he was going to pull a rabbit out of his hat, and it might have led into his second term. Either way, I thought it was going to be an historical event, and it was just not in the way that I had thought. That was it. That there was no I didn't go there. Kash had hinted at, there were a lot of reasons people were there. Some people were there for COVID. Some people were there just to record or as journalists. Some people were there because of the election. I was there primarily because I was angry about the election results, but also I wanted to be there because I thought it was my duty as a citizen. That's why I went there dressed in a suit and tie. I actually went out the night before to Men's Warehouse to get new dress shoes, and that's I wasn't expecting anything else to come of the day. I had hopes that things would go our way, but at the end of the day, I didn't go there with any you know unrealistic expectations. Like I said, I'm an independent. I'm not a partisan person. I just support Trump. I'm pro labor, so in a lot of regards, I'm not partisan, and I'm not really ideologically fixed. They tried to say I was an extremist, pretty much like everybody else that they slandered, but that was it. I
So I
went
get
there with
it.
no ulterior motives.
So like it was the
So
populism of Trump, this kind of hope for the working class that kind of got you on board in terms of supporting him. That makes sense. But in terms of the capital then on that day, what was it? You said you were a couple of miles away. What were you specifically charged for?
so the speech happens and people start walking towards the Capitol. So like I said, yeah, it's about a couple miles from this area called the Ellipse, the area where like the Washington Monument is, that area. A couple miles down the road is where the actual Capitol building is, where Congress sits. And so people start walking that direction. But before Trump's speech is over, there were these like bike rack, I guess you'd call them fence perimeter, you know, panels that were there, and they get torn down before Trump's even done speaking. So I get there, I had no idea that there was even a perimeter set up. So I'm just there on like the area, the grass, or I guess you would call it the Western Terrace, and I'm just there recording with my phone. People are chanting, singing "Christ is King," "God bless the USA," and all that. Then like the cops started throwing flashbang grenades and stuff at us. We started getting hit with flashbangs, and Cash actually is one of the first people to release video of that. So that's really important, and it challenges the narrative that everybody just went there to fight the cops. That's not true. Some people were obviously provocateurs, but a lot of us were just there to exercise what we thought was, freedom of expression.
Yeah.
So we have no idea that this is a restricted area, and the cops don't know. To be frank, they don't know what the hell they're doing. A lot of these officers, I'm not saying they're all bad, but a lot of them are extremely incompetent. So they're lobbing flashbangs into the middle of the crowd. They don't know how to do crowd control. They're macing each other. There's wind that day. It's cold and it's windy, and they're blowing mace into each other's faces. It becomes a cluster. Um, so that's how it escalates into a riot. It wasn't an insurrection. It was supposed to be, I think, for the vast majority of people there, they just thought they were going to protest, and then police brutality. And well, this is a new sensation for a lot of people. A lot of these people are veterans too, older folks. There's men, women, and children there, and it escalates into a riot. But it wasn't intended to be by the majority of people who were there. So I hope that explains that really.
What were you charged with?
Oh, I was charged with trespassing, picketing. There's this. They call it the misdemeanor cocktail. There are these four like generic protesting statutes, all misdemeanors, at the federal level, and so that's what the vast majority of people were hit with. Even if you just walked on the grass or you just wandered through the building, you would get these for like picketing or whatever. Oh, you had like a flag. That's a violation. You can't have an American flag at the Capitol. It's bizarre. But yeah, so that's what I got initially, and then when the administration changed over, the Biden administration hit me with an indictment for a felony charge called obstruction of an official proceeding. It's 18 USC 1512, and this, to not go on a long tangent, after the Enron scandal, they added a sub-statute to this 80s charge. The original charge had to do with tampering with witnesses. After Enron, because of what they were doing, they added a sub-statute for tampering with documents. This is 2003. And so that's what they charged us with. Me in particular, yeah, I got a felony charge for tampering with documents because I obstructed an official proceeding that consisted of an assembly of the House and Senate, which makes no sense. Hundreds of people got charged with this. And then years later, I think it was June of 2024, the Supreme Court overturned it, which is great, but I already served my sentence for it. So, a lot of us got convicted for a fake felony charge that never should have been applied to us, but it was pure, it was weaponization of law enforcement. So that's what that was.
And how long did you spend in prison in total?
3 years.
3 years.
Well, I want to be fair. I did 2 years approximately 2 years, a little less in the DC jail or in jail before I was finally sent to prison. And then I did about a year in federal custody in prison. I was denied bail. Kash, myself, and a couple dozen others were denied bond. And again, for malicious reasons, but they held us in jails and prisons throughout the country without a speedy trial and without bail. So they held us in solitary confinement for about a year. And then, yeah, it's a horror story.
What's the reason that they kept you in solitary confinement? Like, what was the reason?
Punishment.
Oh, just well, they must have had an excuse. Like, what was the excuse they gave?
COVID was COVID was the initial excuse, especially because we were in DC. Different parts of the country might have been different, but DC is worse than any deep blue state. So back then, this was early 2021. Even after DC itself lifted the COVID restrictions, the jail did not. And so even after they did, there were parts of the jail where other inmates
they were out all day.
Yeah, they were out all day. They could have religious services. We couldn't receive communion. We couldn't, see our families, couldn't see our lawyers, couldn't get our evidence for quite a while. So I mean, pretty much everything in the Bill of Rights,
other people in the jail were moving freely, you said.
Yeah, the whole jail was. We were the only the what they called it, the insurrection pod. That's what they called us, the insurrection pod. And they kept us on lockdown. And we had to raise hell.
Yeah, I remember, Cash. You remember they would actually. I remember a lot of so the jail was divided into two components largely. There was the CDF, the Central Detention Facility, and then we were in CTF, the Treatment Facility, which is basically an insane asylum. And for most of the jail, I believe they gave like little hall passes for people to just wander around the jail. We had to get shackled up like Hannibal Lecter, the three-piece suit. So that was fun.
And what about you,
Would
Kash?
recommend.
What happened to you? Was it similar, or what happened on Jan 6, and what were you charged with?
No, man, I just was there singing God Bless America. When I went there wasn't no barricades or nothing. I was standing there. They start throwing tear gas or whatever it was that they were throwing on the canisters and spraying bear spray and shooting people with pepper balls. And yeah, it just went crazy from there. People got frustrated, and I'm recording. I'm yelling at the police. I'm like, "Yo, we supported y'all all 2020 when they were talking about defund the police, and y'all out here shooting us with pepper balls."
Yeah.
And yeah, it escalated. It escalated, and then once it got to a head, people start going up, and I went up. I'm like, I want to go see the inside of the Capitol, so I went inside. The police was right there. I asked the police if I could go in. They said, "Yeah, just don't break nothing, don't steal nothing."
Mm.
And I walk in, and I go. I'm recording. I'm like, "Yo, this is dope." Like I'm looking at all the architecture. I'm like, "This is cool." And then I'd had a moment. I had a moment. I
Mm.
won't sit here and lie. I stood on the pedestal of a statue and took a picture with my thumbs up. It was like a founding father, I think. And I just took a picture like this and posted it on Facebook. And I said something along the lines of, I've never been more proud to be an American than I am today. We let these traitors know that it don't matter your color, if you're red, white, blue, whatever. Uh, we ain't standing for this crap no more. I use a little more colorful language. Back then, I wasn't really saved, right? So when I did that, I jumped down because I see these people going at it with the police inside the Capitol. So I go up to them and I'm like, yo, they weren't out there hitting us with pepper balls. They didn't spray us with no bear spray. They're just doing their job. We ain't Antifa. This ain't how we operate. They said, oh, you Cash Kelly? I'm like, yeah. So then at this time, I'm like super viral. I'm like a,
Yeah.
conservative, I don't know, famous person. And yeah, they wanted to take pictures. So I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll take pictures. It calmed down the situation. Police told them they can go that way. They went off that way. Police looked at me and was like, thanks. I'm like, no problem. And I see this dude. I turn around and see a dude swinging at the chandelier with something. I see another dude lighting up a joint or a blunt or something. And then it just clicked in my head. I'm like, okay, now, now I'm committing a crime right now. So I'm like, I need to turn around and I need to go. So I yell at them guys. I say, well, we don't mess up our own house. We don't destroy our own house. What are y'all doing? They didn't hear nothing. They just kept doing what they was doing. So I turned around and I'm like, I'm out of here. This is bad. So I go to leave. When I go to leave, the door that I came in was shut, barricaded. And there's a mob of people outside the door. The window's broken right there. The police got the door barricaded. I see SWAT coming in, fully geared up. So I'm like, dang. So I'm like, look, I look at the police officer. I said, look, man, I just want to get out of here. I didn't know this was all going to happen. I just want to leave. They said, go ahead. You could go through the window. I said, okay. So I go through the window to leave. Once I get out there, I start telling the people, I say, hey, y'all don't want to go behind that door right now. People are acting crazy in there. They starting to break stuff. And the SWAT's right there and they're ready for business. And they're like, really? Some people left. Some people stayed. Most people stayed. They're like, we don't care. We're getting in there. I'm like, all right, do your thing. So I left. And yeah, and that was it. I got charged with violent entry and disturbing Congress while in session.
And how long did you spend in jail?
A total of 36 months, but I had a prior. So I don't know if you could tell, right? But I had a different upbringing. So I had a charge that I was
couldn't
already
tell.
facing.
I'm not racist.
Yeah. I had a different upbringing, right? So I used to be a gangbanger when I was a kid. So I got indicted when I was an adult after I had changed up my life. I ain't been in a gang for 10 years at that point. I get indicted and I was fighting a federal case, a conspiracy. And I had to get sentenced a month after January 6th. So February of 2021 was my sentencing date for that, which I was supposed to get house arrest. I wasn't even going to do no time. I was going to be home. And yeah, they was like, no, bro, you're a domestic terrorist. You were at our nation's capital. You attacked the seat of democracy and all this crazy stuff. So I got sentenced for that. And then they told me I had charges for January 6th that I had to deal with. So I'm like, it's a criminal complaint at this time. So I'm thinking, all right, they gave me my 48-month sentence. I go and I'm thinking I'm going to a prison. They sent me to DC DOC, a jail, with all of them were pretrial detainees. I'm a convicted felon at this point. I'm not supposed to be with them, but they put me with them. So I'm in this facility and I'm trapped. And as soon as I get there, I'm like, I'll take Whatever they gonna throw at me, it doesn't matter because my big time is gonna eat up the little time. It's just a misdemeanor. Man, I sat for over a year and a half on a misdemeanor charge that carried a maximum of a year. I sat in a jail for a year and a half. And I feel personally that they did that because they knew that I was kept bragging about the First Step Back. I said, Trump put the First Step Back in. I'm just going to go program out and I'll be able to go home. I was saying it on the phones. I was just letting my family know, like, don't worry, I'll still be home. I'll get out of here soon. Just going to do the time. No, they made me sit. They wouldn't let me plead guilty. They wouldn't let me get a right to a speedy trial. They wouldn't do nothing. They denied us. I couldn't even see my lawyer sometimes. They just denied it. And yeah, so there I sat. So I did a total of 36 months. I ended up getting the First Step Back way late. So I came home a little later than I would have came home. But yeah, I came home.
So you got 4 years for your other charge.
Yeah.
And then for your Jan 6 charge, you got how long?
Was it 60 days?
60 days. All right, okay.
60 days. But I
Right.
sat for a year. I sat for over a year and a half.
But that year
inside
and a
of
half, did it count
VCDOC.
towards the 4 years or not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Except for 60 days. They
Okay.
put the 60 days consecutive. So I had to do a little bit more
Okay.
than what I would have had to do. They did that just to be a jerk because I had no violent, none of my charges are violent in any, like my conspiracy or the January 6th. Non-violent charges, model citizen, really, other than January 6th. The stuff that they had me find a conspiracy for when I was like from 12 to the age of 18. That's where that went to. So at the time I get charged, what was I, like 32, 33 years old? I'm like, okay, whatever. So yeah, that's how that went.
Did you both expect Trump to pardon you the first time?
At first I did. I ain't gonna lie. At first I did. I kind of got a little upset when I seen rappers being pardoned. Oh man,
Yeah.
I got insta pissed when who was it, like Lil Uzi or whoever? I don't know what the name is, but somebody got a pardon. And I said, he gonna pardon them and not pardon us? I was on the bro. You used me in a commercial. I'm just saying, like, get me out of here. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. I got over it.
What about you, Tim? Because like he had a chance to pardon everybody, didn't he, before he left office?
He did. I don't. So no, at the time, actually, I don't think it ever even really crossed my mind because what had happened was first. I mean, again, I want to reiterate. I think what happened there was a setup. I don't think President Trump, frankly, had any idea even half of what actually happened that day. And so by that evening, you could see they were already nuking his social media. He had put out a video telling people to leave, and it didn't really get to most people. There was a lot of miscommunication and chaos at the time, and I really had no expectation of that. My main thought was whether or not I'm going to go to prison for 10 years. So,
Yeah.
which, thankfully it wasn't that, but I really didn't have that expectation because I don't think he had any idea what actually happened, to be frank.
Yeah.
I don't.
And on top of that too, it was like when you said about him sending out the message or whatever, like we didn't even have cell service. People didn't have cell service when we was there. Nobody saw that until after it was too late. Like I seen it when I left. I got far away from the Capitol, then my cell service started working, and seen the news and all that. So that was crazy. But even beyond not getting pardoned immediately, personally, now hindsight, looking back, I'm glad we didn't because it showed a whole lot. It showed a whole lot of corruption. It put a spotlight on the BOP and the injustices that happened to us, but more importantly, the people that it's been happening to for a long time for other reasons. The BOP is horrible. It's disgusting the way that they treat people that are supposed to be getting rehabilitated. So I'm glad. And then we also seen other places have a lot of courage after they seen what happened in America and they started standing up to their capital people or whatever, however you call it in other countries. I don't know, their Congress. So yeah. I mean,
I think there's something to say, that sometimes things do happen for a reason. And I remember our cells would be connected. They were like cinder block cells, but you would have vents that you could talk to each other through. Now, me and the guys in the cells next to me, like we would talk through the vents at night, and a lot of us would be like, maybe this needs to happen, because if not, then again, from my perspective, what happened on January 6th was a way to cover up what happened with the election. And so if they just wanted to sweep that under the rug using J6, I feel like if we didn't make as big of a stink not just on J6, but really in captivity. If the bad headlines didn't keep coming, hey, they're torturing these guys in jail. And I don't
Yep.
think most people are still aware of it, but a lot of people did start becoming aware that, hey, you got all these J6 guys that are like it's years, and they're still in there.
Mm.
Um, I think that actually helped keep the questions like the questions were unanswered, and I think it helped keep it in the I think it helped keep it fresh in the American mind instead of just moving on to the next thing and going back to like the rhinos or whatever.
Hmm.
Whatever disagreements people have with Trump or his legacy, I think that us being in captivity helped keep the questions alive. And I'm glad it was me and not somebody else. For
Facts.
it's weirdly, I don't know how best to put it, but I do think that suffering provides an opportunity for growth, and it also provides opportunity uh, for doing great things. Some people use suffering for chaos. I think for others, though, it's a great way to expose evil and to,
Mm.
reveal the truth. We wouldn't know a
Facts.
lot. We wouldn't know a lot. Like I said, Cash. If it wasn't for Cash, some of the first videos of them throwing flashbangs at civilians wouldn't have become popularized.
Yeah, the FBI
The
lied about it in people's court cases. That's the only reason why I released it.
Mm.
Yeah, they
It
straight up
yeah,
said, "Oh, we never attacked the crowd." And then the video turns out, yeah, actually, so while the sedition hunters on the outside, were trying to, use video to hunt people down and facial recognition to destroy people's lives, those of us on the inside were trying to release video showing, hey, like, hey, here's an undercover MPD officer. He's wearing plain clothes. Here's the electronic
hmm
surveillance unit. They're telling people to go in the building. Here's FBI agents on the other side of the building clapping as people go on the east side. There was a lot of video that came out because people weren't satisfied with the narratives, and because the narrative existed, the counter narrative could arise. So it's a weird
Mm.
dialectic. I wish it didn't happen, but on
Mm.
some level, I think it had to. That's my long-winded way of answering that, I guess.
So just like you mentioned about people using this for evil, and we're gonna get into your good buddy, ex-buddy Jake Lang. But but just before that, what's both of your views on Donald Trump now?
You want me
And
to
the
go first? Or
reason
you
I
want to go
asked that
first?
question, just but to give you a kind of thing, is, for example, what's his name, Shimon, what's his name again, Jacob Shanley,
Oh, the QAnon
QAnon
shaman,
Shimon,
the
yeah.
vegan. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
obviously vehemently against Trump now after almost being the
He
face
was
of the.
against Trump when he first came there. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about, like psyops and people that were planted to be there to put a certain narrative.
Mm,
Nobody took him serious. That when we were in DC DOC, we knew all about this dude. That's
He's
right.
a
what he had to
clown.
get. He left up out of there before we even got transferred into our actual unit. He went on a hunger strike. He didn't want to be around anybody, and he wanted organic food. He thought that prison was supposed to be the Hilton. You know what I'm saying? He wanted all organic food because he got a special diet. And we were like, well, this dude is not, you're
It
definitely not.
was most bizarre thing because like you had Quaglin who's like dying every other day because he has celiacs or whatever, and they're trying to force him to eat that garbage bread or whatever. But this guy, he says, "Sorry, I'm a shaman. You have to give me an organic diet." I've never seen that. That was the only time ever I'd
And they
ever
did
seen
it.
anything like that. I
They did it.
but
Did it?
Scott Scott has sent me stuff showing that he offered to testify against Trump
Yes.
anyway. And so I just think, and I've talked to some of his family members, so I don't want to make this too personal, but
Mm,
some people who are close to him say that he's just full of shit. Even if
right.
he's not a psyop, then he's just he thinks he's the center of the universe. He's just one of those characters. And that's why they made him the face of it. Like they made caricatures out of a lot of us because they want to make people think that the people who were there for the right reasons and the people who were there for the wrong reasons, either way, we're all the same and we're all
Yeah.
just a bunch of like Looney Tunes characters.
Yeah.
But
That's a
there's a
fact.
lot more. There's a lot more under the surface.
Yes.
I just think he's a clown.
So what's
Big
your
time
what
clown.
are your views on Trump then, both of yours?
Well, I'll go first. And I'm going to be completely honest. I know this probably won't be popular with maybe some of your audience, or
Probably not.
I'm super biased.
Mm.
I'm probably forever going to be a Trump supporter.
Mm.
All right. Number one, because of the good that he's done when he first got elected, after I started studying him and looking at the legislation that he was pushing through and the things that he was trying to do with America, nothing but love from me to
Mm.
Trump. Do I agree with everything that he does?
Mm.
No, I do not. But you'll never hear me say it. All right, you'll never hear me critique it, and it's because I'm biased. The man gave me a pardon, got the first step back that got me back home to my family. So I'm being totally honest with your audience. I am biased when it comes to Trump. So there's that.
Well, it's important to be grateful for somebody who does something for you, and he did give you like a pardon, right? And did your pardon include just Jan 6, or was it total pardon for everything?
Nah, it's just for January 6th. I'm still actually on probation. I'm about to be completing probation right now for the other thing.
Okay. And what about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I have my disagreements with some stuff that comes out of the administration, and I'm a little more, I think I'm in a more sensitive position. I cannot speak as freely as I'd like to about certain things because I know people in the administration and I've worked closely with some of them. President Trump has actually been very good to January 6th families. And so this is a side of things people don't see. For like the past few years, we've had organizations that came out, charities that would help defendants' families pay the rent and stuff like that, help provide lawyers. And President Trump and his associates have done a lot behind the scenes to platform us and to help families that were in real need. So it's not stuff I don't want to get too in depth because I don't want to put certain people in the administration at risk. But I know that the truth is that it's complicated. It's not a simple answer, but politics is actually it's really disgusting. It's really gross. And whatever you think about the government, it's way worse than that. There's a lot of good people in this administration, and there's a lot of people trying to fuck it up on the inside. That's what I could say.
Cool. Okay, I won't ask you too many questions. I don't want to put you guys in an awkward spot when it comes to like certain political questions. So moving on, your good buddy Jake Lang. So how do you both know him from your time in prison, or even before that? Did you know him before Jan 6?
No,
Okay.
thank God. No.
So how do you know?
I met him on Con Air. He was the first person I met. After my arrest, the marshals movie around the country. It's called Diesel Therapy, and so that movie, like Con Air, it's not quite like that, but yeah, they put you on a plane, they fly you around the country. I was picked up in New Jersey, and it's like 4 hours from DC. So you think they just put me in a bus if they're going to house me in the DC jail, but no, they moved me all around. They shipped me up to New York, and then they put me on this plane, and then I'm there. And there's just weirdos all around me telling me stuff. I'm just like, you're fed. That's weird. I don't believe what you're telling me. You glow in the dark. And to my right is this jackass who won't shut up about beating on cops with a baseball bat for 3 hours. He's telling me he's famous. I'm like, I never heard of you. I got 40,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm just like, just shut up, please shut up. Stop talking about your case. What's wrong with you? I don't identify myself as a J6er. There's people around me who disappear after that, who say they were, and then I can't find any record of them. So they were acting. There were people on that plane with me who were faking. But then this joker, he ends up being with me throughout my transit to the DC jail. And we go from New York to Grady County, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Northern Neck, Virginia, and then DC. And the whole time I'm just getting like red flag after red flag. And it's that was my introduction. Is this guy keeping me up till 3 a.m. as my cellmate, bragging about banging prostitutes and doing drugs and never getting in trouble. And then he's this messianic figure and he's going to lead a revolution and I should join his militia and all this crap. And I'm just like, please stop talking. I want to go to sleep. It's it just and fortunately, it only gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I met him. Well, how does it get worse?
Well, when we're in the DC jail, and we'll get to this, but I mean, I'm sure whatever Kash is about to say is an example of that. It just gets worse.
Go ahead, Kash. How did you get to know him?
DC. So yeah, when I got sent to DC DOC and came into C2B, see everybody cells, and we didn't really get to meet. You just see people in passing because we're all locked in. We're on solitary confinement, so we're not talking with each other unless you're next door to somebody or yelling through the door. And my first impression of him was when he had got into it with Big O, Richard Barnett. All right. And Richard Barnett's just screaming outside his door, dude. And I'm watching. I see Big O going crazy, talking about Jake's a fake Christian and you saying all kind of crazy stuff, man. And then the police come and grab Big O and throw him on the ground and carry him out. And so he said that Jake was antagonizing him. And so that was my first impression until they let us go outside one time. When we go outside one time, we all meet and we're talking. And I get to talking with Jake, and he seemed all right. You know, he seemed obnoxious and annoying, but he didn't, he seemed okay. He was like, all right, he's just I guess a religious person, right? That's how my impression was. This guy's religious and trying to keep people's morale up. He'd be yelling out the door, Patriot Challenge, trying to get people to do push-ups with him and all of that. So I'm like, all right, he's all right, But as we got to go out more, this is when things take a turn because we start to come out more, and then you start to see the entitlement. You start to see the arrogance, the nitpicking, the wanting to hog a phone where we don't got a lot of time out, and he wants to sit on the phone all day. And he tries to make himself more important than everybody else, saying that he's trying to do an interview with, I don't know, OAN or whatever news whatever he's doing it with. And people started to get pissed off. He got into it a couple times with people at the phone. And, he just rubbed you the wrong way, And then when we really started to come out is when it got bad. Like matter of fact, even before that, when we were on detail, he would be screaming that it's not fair that all of us are on detail because I was a part of the detail crew and they let us stay out. So I'd be out myself, just hanging out, you know what I mean? And he would be pissed, like he should be on detail. He would get very upset and be yelling through the door and, just mad. Hey, can you bring me this? Hey, I want a tablet. He always wanted a tablet. And he was just very, very obnoxious about it, And I try to be nice because, that's just who I am. So I would try to, help him out a couple times.
What's the detail crew?
Like the
custodians.
Custodians. We go out there, we pass out the food trays, we'll pick up the food trays at the end of the day, we mop, we sweep, but we get to hang out. Like when we're out, we'll sit there and play cards or we'll play chess or whatever while everybody else is locked in. So it pissed a couple people off, not just Jake. But Jake would get a little uptight about it. But when we really started coming out is when it really took off because now everybody's starting to create these little groups. Now everybody's got these little fractions, and you could tell who was who. You know what I'm saying? Because the obnoxious, uptight, entitled people all hung out together. The ones that thought that they were supposed to have it better or have some type of say-so, or they would try to rally together and whisper into other people's ears about this person and that person. Try to tell me Tim's a racist. Don't talk. Jake told me that. Hey, Tim's racist. He dressed up as Hitler. He doesn't like black people. I'm like, oh, really? And him not really knowing me that well, I'm a straightforward kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? So I go up to Tim's cell and I'm like, yo, Tim, hey, bro, you racist? And he's like, what? No, I'm not racist.
He didn't do the salute as soon as he asked him.
No. He goes, no. He goes, I'm not a racist. I like everybody, man. I'm part Puerto Rican. He goes, but I did, if they're talking to you about the Hitler thing, I do a lot of satire. I'm a comedian. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Dave Chappelle is one of my favorite. Richard Pryor is my third cousin. I love them all about it. So me and him end up hitting it off. So now I'm knowing Jake's got a motive here. Why are you trying to get me to hate this guy? Why are you trying to get me to not like this guy? And he did that with a couple different people. So it was those little things that it kicked everything off to the annoyance that personally that I had, but other people had. Because the same way that they had their groups, we had our little groups and we would talk. And everybody that was like a man, everybody in there doing man time, like just being men, right? All of them, it's like, man, this kid is insufferable. A couple of times we had to talk people down because they're like, bro, I'm about to go and just bang this dude up. One person did. One person went and, did what they did. I ain't gonna put them on blast of who it was, but had to tighten Jake up real quick. And yeah, it got bad. Tim?
Yeah, it escalated quite a bit. I had to write. This is the most bizarre thing. My union shop steward, my inner laborer came out when I was in there. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to unionize this group so nobody kills each other. And so I wrote a constitution for the unit.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, here's all the things we're not going to do. This is how you behave in jail. Don't do this. Don't disrespect it. Everybody signs it. He's like the last one. And it's just like, do this. because you're gonna die. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't like an ultimatum, but like that
Somebody's
was
gonna hurt you,
the
bro.
motivation. That was the motivation because I knew people genuinely wanted to put their hands on him. And from my perspective, one, one, it's going to hurt people's cases, and for some people who fought a lot, that actually did end up hurting them at their sentencing. And two, I was more, as much as I like he pointed out, as much as I found him obnoxious, even I didn't want Jake to be in the hole, and thrown down in the dungeon basically, because I just didn't think that it was kind, or for lack of a better term. I don't like torture, even for people I hate.
Yeah, for sure.
But he constantly caused division, and I would write request forms to have him brought back to the unit. Anytime anybody went to the hole, I would write requests to have them brought back. And I don't think it always worked, or maybe they didn't even look at them, but that was my mindset. But at some point, about the summer of 2021, I'm just like, I can't keep doing this. You're going out of the way. It's like when you're a union rep, for instance, like you got to look out for the shitbags on the in the job too. Like you have to. It's your obligation. But like, at some point, you got to be able to cut loose a gangrene finger. And that's what he was. He was gangrene. Constantly, like he had mentioned an incident with Big O. He got us locked down for a week on Easter weekend. Mr. Christian, he got us locked down on Easter weekend and for a full week because he incited a riot.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
he
yeah,
incited multiple
that
riots.
pissed me
That's
off
why.
so bad.
So when he had that interview with you, or debate, whatever you want to call that, where he's talking about, oh, he ended up in the hole because he asked for Bible studies. That is the biggest crock of shit
That
I've
was
ever
straight
heard.
lie.
Straight lie. He went to the hole because he was giving these Braveheart speeches and was trying to incite riots in the jail. Nobody ever went to the hole for, I mean, to my knowledge, nobody went to the hole for wanting to do Bible study. Now, people might have gotten locked down or disrespected for asking it because, for quite some time, it took a while for them to start, a lot of the guards to start warming up to us. I'm not trying to downplay how bad it was, but he in particular was
Made
not
it
this,
hard.
Made it
yeah,
harder.
after like the first year, a lot of the problems in the DC jail were from particular inmates causing problems. And, again, I'm not saying the jail was a fan of us. A lot of the guards still did dislike us. The upper brass, the
Most of
majors,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and conditions did improve. So I don't want to give people the wrong impression. And it's just important to, even though like a lot of people don't want to get into the weeds of this because maybe it is a little time consumptive, but it's just important to remember when he says, oh, I didn't get a trial. Well, that's his fault. I got a trial. It took me a year and a half. The Speedy Trial Act says you're supposed to get one within 70 days if you invoke your rights. So don't get me wrong, they did deny people speedy trials. But when you push it enough, they had no choice at some point. I got a trial after 16 months. He didn't get a trial in 4 years because he kept postponing his trial. He kept
Mhm.
filing for extensions. So this is how he lies
What
and
was
he
the reason?
manipulates it
What was the reason he was doing that?
because so he can play
We
political prisoner,
That's
or
exactly what I was about to say, man.
so he
That
can
was
pretend like
exactly
he.
it.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing. How many other defendants got trials? A lot of them. A lot of people did get trials. I'm not saying they were fair. I'm not saying the juries weren't biased. I'm not saying they didn't withhold evidence. There were a lot of due process violations, substantive due process, procedural due process. But all that being said, his story is not spectacular in and of itself. The most spectacular thing about him is that he lies about the nature and characteristics of himself and his case.
So,
Otherwise there's nothing about him that is worthy of highlighting compared to others. A lot of people suffered a lot more than he did. People with husband or well, yeah, actually, I mean there were women, actually, people with husbands, people with wives, people with children. We were locked up. I mean, Cash can tell you all kinds of people were there. Lonnie Kaufman, he was a 71-year-old Vietnam
That one.
vet. There
so,
there were all kinds of people who were locked up, and it wasn't just in DC. There were Northern Neck, Virginia, all throughout the country. We call it the DC Gulag, but I'm sure I don't know if you read Gulag Archipelago, about the gulags in the Soviet Union. The whole
yeah.
concept there of the archipelago is like it's a archipelago is a series of islands, and that's the whole thing. Is there's these gulags, these prisons throughout America, jails and prisons where January 6th defendants were held without bail. Nobody cares. Nobody knows they're even there, and they're just rotting away. But
Mhm.
Jake Lang is the hero of J6. He's the leader, and that is where a lot of the discontent. Basically, he's full of shit and he wants to make himself like the president of January 6th defendants, but the vast majority of them want nothing to do with him. And if you notice from his little protests and his psyops and stuff, the vast majority of anybody who ever did time with him is never out there in the streets with him because everyone knows he's full of shit. Nobody wants anything
Anybody
to do
from
with
Jan
him.
6 with him in any of them protests?
From DC, no. None of the people that we were, well, I'll say one went with him a couple times to, but not for protest or nothing, but you know, to just support, I guess, support, because don't get it twisted. Like, even though I hate how Jake is, I love Jake. You know what I'm saying? I do. I got genuine love for Jake. And I wish that he would just get better. Same way it was when we were locked up. I just wanted him to do better. That was it. And he's got people that are like that still hold that same thing for him, and they'll show up for him to hang out or, you know, just kick it or whatever. But nobody's out there with this movement that he's trying to get started. This whole, you know, white Christian nationalist, you know, Nazi, only white people in America, black people are the enemy and Muslims are the devil, and all the stuff that he's pushing. Most people ain't even, but we don't want to hear that. We ain't got no part in that. That's not what we think about when we're talking about, you know, making America great again or trying to fix our country.
We'll talk
Something
about
completely different you got going on.
Yeah, we'll talk
One of
about
the people who stood by him in the past was Peter Steger, and Steger is Muslim. So it's like, it's kind of ironic that he says Muslims are like this huge danger to America or to whatever. But yet Peter Steger was always at his side when they were locked up together. I don't know if
And I know
anything's
Philip
changed.
Anderson, one of his other friends, he's basically, he thinks it's a Zionist issue. He thinks it's a Jewish issue. And obviously, this guy's an Ashkenazi Jew. Another thing he said about you, Tim, is he said you guys were friends and then you stopped being friends based on that you were doing some fundraising and also your family member was doing some fundraising, or you were, and then him and his aunt or his family member, or he was doing fundraising and you wanted it for yours, but he didn't. He wanted to do his own thing or something along those lines. If I remember right from the interview, that's where the kind of separation occurred or something. Do you know
that sounds familiar? Yeah, so that sounds familiar. So first off, no, I was never his friend. I'll get to that. That'll be the second thing. Just the first thing is that, so what he's referring to is a group called Patriot Freedom Project, which my family started in early 2021, initially as like a support group for the wives of those that were locked up. But then it turned into a 501c3, it turned into a full charity, and it was being used to help, you know, pay people's bills. It was being used to provide like legal support for defendants. In the summer of 2021, I have messages from him where he's like trying to dissuade my family from starting a 501c3 and instead working with this fraud lawyer, what's his name, John Pierce, I think, who was like connected to the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And I think I could be wrong, but I think he screwed Kyle Rittenhouse over, or at least that's what he alleged. So this guy pops up with January 6th, and I think Kash can back me up on this. There were like, I want to say there were like 20. There were dozens of defendants that we were locked up with who had John Pierce at one point as their lawyer, and then he just disappeared on like some coke bender, and then they all had to get new lawyers, and we had to help with a lot of that. So there was a lot of issues with like money in terms of like fundraising and stuff like that, where there were like divisions that were born. So that's true, but the reason why he's not really explaining that. There was a guy who came up to me once in the jail, and he was like, "Hey, I just heard Lang, Sandlin, and DeGrave. They're talking about how to compete with your organization and create this website to fundraise money, because from their perspective, charity, which was helping people who actually needed it, versus just setting up a Give, Send, Go and making money because you want money because you're a hero." Keep in mind, a lot of these guys didn't have a pot to piss in. They were losing their homes, they were losing their businesses, they were losing their wives, or they were the breadwinners, they couldn't support their wives and kids, right? There were people who genuinely needed help. And then you have Lang, who is this single, childless, just degenerate, and a couple others like him in there, the cabal, I called them, and they're trying to fundraise and utilize Gateway Pundit and utilize webs, Give, Send, Go, to raise millions and millions of dollars,
which they
and
did.
they brag. And so like they'll brag, "Oh, I did all this, I helped all these people." I know a lot of people who've gotten money from Lang and they explicitly have directions. You cannot say anything negative about him.
Mm.
It's part of the deal. But most people we were locked up with want nothing to do with it. And he would actually anonymously send them money so that he could then lord it over their heads. I just got off the phone with someone earlier about that. And so don't want to, again, get too deep into the weeds there. But yeah, money was an issue because it was a concern about actual charity going to where it needed to be through a 501c3 that had actual tax forms versus like Give, Send, Go, which is a great tool. But Give, Send, Go basically for a lot of J6 stuff, I think Give, Send, Go kind of became like the Canary Island, or not the Canary Islands, the Cayman
GoFundMe.
Islands. It became like the Cayman Islands for J6, where people would just be like, "Hey, I'm in jail. They flicked my PP. Can I get $20,000 or something like that?" And that's what it started ending up happening. But going back, Lang was never my friend.
Mm.
As I told you, he was my cellmate. He tried to incite fights between me and another defendant named Michael Curgio. Right when we first met, we were in Northern Neck, Virginia. I'm in the cell with Lang. The cell next to me is my Curgio, and Lang's like, excuse me. Curgio had done prison time before, and so he's got some prison markings. He had to join a gang to survive in state prison, and so you can imagine what kind of marking he has. And so Jake looks at that and he's like, "Tim, I think Mike is anti-Semitic." And I'm just like, "Shut the fuck up." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up." And he's just trying to instigate a fight between me. And I'm Catholic,
Yeah.
and Mike is he's an Odinist, which he's come to Christ recently, and I'm grateful for that. But at the time, like, I didn't care. And so he's trying to incite like a religious feud between me and this non-Christian guy. And he's also trying to go at it from the anti-Semitic angle. So I'm like, it's so many different ways. He's just trying to incite arguments and
Why
cause
would
chaos.
that incite a religious feud if he's anti-Semitic? I don't get it. If
Because
anything,
when in prison he was
you're Catholic, you
Jewish,
should be
he was
jumping on board.
messianic.
Yeah, it didn't really make sense to me,
Yeah.
but that's what he was basically trying to use me as his sword.
Right.
Because he was my cellmate, and he's very clearly Semitic,
Yeah.
which again, I never actually cared about that. And he could say whatever he wants, and but the fact is, like, I don't think anybody ever cared about that. It's the fact that he lies. It's the fact, I mean, he told me he was a rabbi. He told me that he trained with the Talmud. I know, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But he said, yeah, he was a trained rabbi. He practiced the Zohar and the Talmud. And yet but then I heard on the stream the other day, he was like, "I've never been a Jew ever theologically." I'm like, "You told me initially you were a rabbi." Then he said, "I'm an ordained priest." Then he started his own cult called the Temple of Israel. And I don't know if Cash, if you remember, he would hand
Yo, I
out like
remember. I remember.
He would
he
hand about.
rewrote the book of Psalms. He said God renamed him because in the Bible it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob gets renamed Israel. He's called Israel. Well, Jake, granted, that's not his real name, by the way. His real name's Ed. His real name's Edward Jacob Lang. He goes by Jake. We called him Eddie to fuck with him.
Right.
Because he's full of shit. So anyway, Eddie, he says, he stops going by Jake. He starts going by Yisrael. And so he starts taking random Bible quotes, jotting them on pieces of paper. And he starts
writing his
signing
own,
them.
bro.
Yeah. And he signs them as Yisrael. Like God renamed me. And he says, "Oh, God spoke to me. He's giving me prophecies." I'm just like, "You're just the most vile piece of shit." And he has no, he's the kind of sociopath where like he's not charismatic and he's not intelligent. All he has is just money and initiative. So he'll just keep going like the Energizer Bunny, but he forgets a lot of the bullshit he says. So there was one point he told me,
I think he's a bit charismatic, but I mean, I think he is a bit. Like
he's very charismatic.
Yeah, I think he is. I think that's his skill. Like his skill isn't intelligence, like you saw in the debate. Nor does he have any knowledge because he didn't have knowledge. But what he has got is that kind of enthusiasm and that bit of charisma, and it's very short lived because he can basically rile up people, and hence why doing what he's doing when he's invading different areas and riling people up works.
He does ad lib. Yeah, go ahead.
For the record, nobody cared about Jake being Jewish when we were locked up except for Jake. Jake was the one that was proud, saying all this proud Jewish stuff and calling people dirty Gentiles and
Well, he was calling people dirty Gentiles.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he would get kosher trays. Everyone else would eat slop, and so he would get kosher trays and whatever. But that's what he identified as. That's what he got, and then he would hold it up in the window to fuck with people. Like, "I got fish, you didn't." like you're a scumbag. You know, like that's like just not even cool. But yeah, like so anyway,
But that
what I
didn't
was
get
trying to
him
say
like battered
before.
in prison. Like I assume if you act like an idiot, you just get.
No, we just
Not that
shook his
I'm a
tray up
violent guy. I'm
sometimes.
not. I'm a nerd. But I'm assuming that's always been would be my assumption that in prison, you act
We
like an
operated
idiot.
like civilized people, though. Like it was different. Our pod was. You got to think about it. We were all like-minded people. We were all Trump supporters. We're all there for J6. We're
You're
all
all
trying to
Jan
get
sixes
home. So it
together.
wasn't like It wasn't like being in actual jail
Right.
amongst us. We didn't have the same kind of etiquette that you would have had if you would have been in the CDF side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He would have definitely got. He would have got stabbed. He would
There
have
was
got
an
stabbed.
element, yeah, there was an element of like the Lord of the Flies thing, but like that's something that broke down over a decent period of time. Like it wasn't initially we called it the Patriot Pod. I think one of the prosecutors, they said that we were a college of collusion at one point. Like, I can't believe we put them all there together. How did we do? Why did we do? You know, like they didn't do that intentionally. But what I was saying is like why I was bringing that up is that he doesn't remember half the things he says. And so he told me at one point that Jesus was an invention of the Romans. And so he would say all these like heretical things. And then when it was time to switch up and change his mask, then suddenly he's this evangelical person. And so you can't take any of it at face value. On Christmas of 2021, and I still have it. There was this paper Christmas tree that was put up on the wall, and instead of like a regular star, he puts a Star of David at the top of it, and he just creates the tree of the Star of David, and he goes around. He's like, "Have a very Jewish Christmas," and it's just like he's a scumbag. And then to
What about the
to show
commissary? Remember what he used to do with the Tell him about the
Oh
commissary.
my God. He would again, because this is just the mindset. Like I can just buy people and they owe me. Like my dad gave you Cheetos, you owe me. So he would use commissary, he'd take a crap load of it, empty it on a table, and then he would take like 6 sheets of paper and draw giant stars of David on it and praise Yahweh or whatever. And then it's just like what are you doing, dude? It was just make a spectacle of it. He just wanted to be literally wanted to be worshipped.
Yeah.
Most bizarre thing in the world.
It's part of his brilliance, though. You think about it, though, bro. Think about everything we talking about right now, and this is part of his brilliance because you can't say that he's not successful in the content creation world because he is charismatic and can switch a mask real quick. He went from being somebody when he was locked up with you over there in Northern Neck to being this other type of person when he comes to DC DOC to switching up in front of all of us from being Jewish to evangelical, changing his name to Israel. Then when he goes to Brooklyn, he's doing all these other things, and then when he gets freedom, now he's a white nationalist, and he's not Jewish, and he's a white Jew, and switching it
Crusader.
up because he got found out to now I'm not a I'm not a white Christian nationalist or a white supremacist. No, now I'm an American supremacist. He's cold blooded, man. His code switch, impeccable.
So he mentioned
It's
one
odd.
thing. Sorry, he mentioned one thing which was it's related to this, which is that he said he baptized. What is it like 600 people in jail? I believe he said 600 people in jail. Is that right? Did you have any experience of him doing that?
Oh no. Yo. Never where I was. I mean, I don't know. I can't say. I know that when he was over there with Ryan Samsel, man. Ryan Samsel said, bro, this dude he's a quack, bro. he's a quack. Everything he's saying is a lie, bro. All the videos he's putting out is a lie. He said he's on food strike. He's on a hunger strike, telling people he hasn't eaten in days. I just watched him eat a ham sandwich. I'm like, yo, dude, are you serious? He goes, yeah, bro, he's a liar. They want to kill him in here because he keeps on getting the unit shook down because he's doing stupid stuff with the phones. And I'm like, yo, that's why he's in PC right now. I'm like, dang, for real? Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he did baptize 600 people. I can't say that he didn't. I wasn't there. I can just tell you what I was told. But yeah,
We should ask Scott. Scott's the only person I know who's confirmed that he lied about saying that. Like he claimed at one point that he baptized Scott, and Scott's like, you're out of your mind. Get out of here." Yeah, I don't. First off, I didn't know Satan could baptize people, so I don't want to be controversial.
Maybe he means into Judaism, but then they don't allow anyone in.
Oh man.
So like actually, I should have asked him that some names of some people because you're saying you never experienced it yourself.
No.
Okay.
No,
people didn't want to hang. Go ahead.
No, he got repeatedly kicked out of Bible studies for pushing heresy. And we would allow people in who weren't Christian, even like we would allow people who had diverse thoughts, like to come in and listen, to share their thoughts. We would have like I guess you would call it ecumenical, collegial sort of thing sometimes. But when you just come into the Bible study to push bullcrap
Mm.
and to be a stumbling block, like there was no tolerance for that. So he, like I said, he claimed Jesus was fake. He was an
Mm.
invention. At one point, he said Christians had to celebrate Rosh Hashanah. And here's the thing too, like again, to back up what I and Cash have said, nobody cared that he was Jewish. It's the fact that he was lying and playing a character, because I don't think he's a good Jew, because it was at one point he got this like children's book about Rosh Hashanah, and he brings it into Bible study. He's reading about Rosh Hashanah from the book because he doesn't even understand it well.
Mm.
So he's and anyway, it's just
I got him
yeah.
upset. I started to troll him a lot because it started to get annoying. So when he would talk about all this Jewish stuff, I say, bro, you're not really Jewish, right? I'm like, you say you're Ashkenazi, bro. You're not even really Jewish. Just talking about I used to point out the Revelation verse. I say, bro, I'm really from the tribe of Judah. You're an imposter. And he would get heated, man. He would get heated.
I
Yeah.
also heard
Sometimes.
I also heard from people at that time, because one of the things he'd do is, because I know he had access to a phone, and I have got a question about that, why he had access to phones. But he had access to a phone. He used to phone he used to phone people who used to then link it into X spaces, like the X space you came on earlier. And people from those spaces, such as Mays, has told me that one of the things he used to complain about on those spaces was that he was getting anti-Semitic abuse in the prisons as well. Is that something you ever heard, or did that ever happen?
Well, not in DC. I mean, he would claim that because Tim's hilarious with drawings, and he would always think that they're about him. Some of them may have been, may not have been, but it wasn't racist. It wasn't anti-Semitic. It was hilarious, and he did it to everybody. It wasn't like, and it was like he did it to white guys. He did it to me. He did it to Ronnie. He did it to everybody. So it was
the
like it wasn't
the daily
anti-Semitic. It was hilarious.
So
the
what
The
is it?
Daily
daily
What
Meme.
meme.
what what are these anti-Semitic drawings you were doing, Tim?
They didn't exist. I drew a cartoon because, like I said, I was a comedian, a satirist, and so I loved making caricatures, and
Mm.
so I would kind of vandalize some of the jailhouse tables, and I would just draw like very hilarious cartoons about scumbags in the jail, and they would just drive them crazy because I wouldn't get into fights because I knew they wanted me to get violent. They were trying to portray me as this like domestic
Hmm.
terrorist and extremist.
Mm.
So I'll just laugh in people's face and I'll draw cartoons. And what I started doing is I made a daily cartoon series called the Daily Meme.
Mm.
And I would just draw, here's Jake trying to get us locked down again, or here's Jake trying to steal people's communication tablets so they can't talk to their families again.
Mm.
And I'll put it in the window, and anybody past my cell would have to look at that in the window. But any criticism of him was anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitic, and that's what it was. It wasn't that they were anti-Semitic. It was
Mm.
just because he drew them about him. He's attributing it because Tim's anti-Semitic. You
That's
know what
what
I'm
Oh,
saying?
that's what
oh,
anti-Semitism is, though.
here's the best example I can think of why this is a ruse and why he does primarily, I guess, identify as Jewish or whatever. But so again, you'd seen like uh the Hitler joke.
Yeah.
That was from a year before J6. All right, I didn't go to the Capitol dressed like that. They tried to make it seem like that in the reports. I told you I was there in a suit and tie,
Mm.
whatever. They release that photo of me every other week to screw up my case and sabotage a potential jury because we're in Washington D.C. Who
Yeah.
do you think is going to be on the jury?
And before October
Jake.
7th, that was just ending. It was ending of your career, ending of your life. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, so like, and this is early 20. This is 2021, right? So we're still in solitary. So what he does though is he keeps trying to turn the whole jail against me. He keeps trying to tell everybody I'm a Nazi. I'm this anti-Semitic monster, and he would try to shame me into like getting on my knees and apologizing to him on behalf of all Jewish people, like he was the king of Jewish people. And he would leave notes. He would slide them into my door. Tim,
Mhm.
how could you do this? Uh, those are my people. How could you say that? How could you do that? Da, da, da. And he would try to shame me into reading Holocaust books. He tried to get me to read Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. I'm like, this is a psychology book for high schoolers, Jake. He tried to get
It's a
me to
good book,
read
though.
this. He tried to get me to read this novel called Milkweed.
It's one of
It's
my
a
favorite books,
children.
that, though. Like, but anyway, do continue.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but so like that's what his Holocaust education is.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like he tries to get me to read Milkweed, which is a children's novel.
Yeah.
It's a fictional book about some kid in a ghetto.
Yeah.
Okay, it's whatever, but that's his way of getting me to understand the Holocaust. Keep in mind, I'm a history major.
Mm.
I know what the Holocaust was. I know all about it. I don't need
Mm.
this junkie dipshit from New
Mm.
York who doesn't know his dick from his ass
Mm.
to tell me about the Holocaust by leaving little books passive aggressively at my cell. And so that's just the kind of person he is. And then and then of course now he's this Christian crusader,
But
and he was never Jewish.
did you apologize to him on behalf of our
Fuck
No,
viewers?
no,
But
fuck no. I'll
what?
never
it got
apologize.
bad,
So you're
dude.
basically anti-Semitic then?
Disavow. I disavow all
Disavow.
anti-Semitism. We love the
He got really
Semites.
bad, bro. He did. He got real bad for a while there. He got like people starting to get emboldened because nobody was getting beat up, right? So he started. A lot of people started to act a little more like show a little more bravado, and that's what he did when me and him had got into it. I'm telling him like, yo, just leave me alone, bro. I don't want to talk to you. Just leave me alone. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't. And we had a little thing happen. And same thing, dropping notes after it all happened. I'm telling this dude to leave me alone, but he's dropping notes under my door. Brother, I can't believe, you did this. We're supposed to be, in Christ and we're brothers. And I'm just like, dude, you can't take a hint, man. And I'm still livid at him. Like, bro, we just coming off lockdowns that you created. We ain't been able to talk to our kids because things that you're doing, and I don't want to talk to you, and you just keep on pushing the envelope. Then you get in my face when I'm telling you to back up, leave me alone, and then now I'm the bad guy because I had to put you down. And it's like it was never ending.
What do you mean by
It
putting him
never
down?
stopped.
Because I saw your stream. Did you? Apparently, you punched him and knocked him out or something.
Yeah, just put him down. Then I let him go. It was like catch and release.
Like a dog.
Nah, I ain't doing
Put
like
down,
that. I
like
didn't
a
do him
dog.
bad. I just made him leave me alone. That's all. I just made him leave me alone. And when he told, he did his thing, like, bro, please. And I'm like, just don't talk to me no more, bro. Leave me alone.
So how
That was
long
that.
did you both spend with him in prison?
A little over a year.
It's hard to quantify that because he kept between the time he would go into the hole for his riots and then the times he would get moved around. Cash, you were there longer than me. So like after I
Yeah.
left, I know he came back at some point to DC.
Yeah.
And I think he got bounced around again after that. So I don't even I couldn't even give a number to that. But for most of 2021 and 2022, I think I was around him. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Altogether around a little over a year.
Yeah.
And why did he have access to phones? I remember you mentioning in your stream that he was calling General Flynn and he had access to phones. Like, why did he have this? Why did he have access to phones?
I mean, when you go to a jail, it's depending on what jail you go to, you get phones. Like there's people in there that got phones. If you got money, you could get a phone.
Right.
And Jake had money, so he was able to get a phone. But the things that he was doing, like with the phone, this is what I didn't understand, right? This is what made me have my antennas up. Because I've been through the system. After you get you a phone and then you get hot with the phone and you make it hot for everybody else that has the phone, there's nobody else giving you a phone. I don't care what kind of money you got. And if they do give you a phone, somebody's waiting so they could take that phone from you. You're on a list now, bro, amongst the inmates. And if he was in general population, that's what makes everybody suspicious because he's consistently stayed with a phone. You know what I'm saying? Consistently. So it just started not to add up. And there was like rumors that I don't know if you heard this rumor, Tim, that Jake wasn't even in jail, that he was in like a green screen or like he was. It got crazy. I don't know how.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that.
When he went to solitary, some people were saying that he wasn't really in solitary. Is what you're saying, right?
I don't know. I don't believe that because. I mean, it's too many people that I know that was locked up in Brooklyn that told me that he was in there causing chaos. So I don't believe that he was home. I ain't gonna take that from him and make it like he didn't go through it. He went through a lot, and he had people pressing him, inside of there, which I ain't gonna get into that because it's, it don't need to be talked about. But I believe that's where the transformation in his mind started.
People were pressing him.
People was pressing him like, when you get pressed in prison. Yeah, like, bro, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna do something to you if you don't.
Okay.
Yeah. But beyond that, like, I don't even want to get into it. But I feel like that's what helped to transform his ideology. because Jake was not. And I could say this, like, no matter how much we talk and laugh about the stupid things that Jake does, how annoying he was. Like I said, I got love for him, and I feel for him because something did happen that transformed this dude when he was locked up. If he's not a psyop, if he's not hired by some agency or something, like how a lot of people believe, I'm questioning it still to this day. I don't know. Maybe like a part of a network. I don't know. If he's not, then something changed him when he got locked up, when he had to be around a whole bunch of people that he's never had to be around before, that made him have a hate towards these people.
But do you think that
Because
it's
think
that
about it.
because the way you're describing his kind of actions within prison, where he's literally saying God speaking to him, where he's writing his own verses, what he's basically wants to be the center of attention, and he wants to become viral essentially. And if you look at
But
it
he couldn't
right
do it
now,
in jail.
sorry,
But he couldn't do that in jail
he
is the
couldn't do
whole
that in
thing.
jail.
He
But what
couldn't
I
be the
mean is,
center of attention.
sorry, I thought you meant in terms of his actions now, and I'm saying his actions now make sense based on what you guys are telling me and describing to me in terms of the way he acted in prison. Because now, if you look at it from his perspective, he's a Jewish guy. He's not going to become viral being a Jewish guy. People don't like them at the moment, right? So the best way to become viral is to say you're a Christian guy and then attack Jews or Muslims, and that way you will become viral. And causes a lot of people basically speaking out against Jews, attacking Muslims and doing these things does get you viral. For example, Valentina Gomez attacks Muslims, she becomes viral. So anyone who
Yeah.
sees that, this is an easy way of becoming viral. So from what you're describing me, this isn't kind of out there in that regard. What do you guys think?
I mean, yes and no, because it's like he's always been an attention seeker,
Yeah.
right? We know that. That's one thing that we all know about Jake. He thrives on attention, right? But the whole content creation thing, he's always been that. Like when we were locked up, he was talking about his little media company that he had, his little social media site. He's always been into this type of thing, right? So coming home, yeah, he still has that same goal to go viral and to do all of these things. But I was questioning. I even had a conversation with his fiance Rachel the other day, and I asked her. I'm like, look, I got to ask you this question: is somebody forcing Jake to do this? Because I never experienced racist Jake before. This whole character is new to me, right? I never experienced that. And she's like, no, nobody's forcing him to do this. And me knowing some of the things that I know, I'm like, okay, if there ain't nobody forcing him to do this, then he's really believing this stuff with a combination of he wants to go viral. So he's saying shocking things because the moment after he's talking about black folks, me and him have a heart to heart. After we got on a space, you know what I'm saying? A couple months back, we get on a space. The first thing he calls me is a violent black American when he was trying to do the whole white nationalist thing around Austin Metcalf, rest in peace. And he got on there and just totally said some foul stuff, you know, and he said some other stuff about why we got pardoned, why Trump pardoned the J6ers and how he felt towards that. And that was messed up. I was shocked that he said what he said, you know, but then I talked to him on the phone and it's like, bro, you're my brother, you know, I'm so angry about things. And we had a real in-depth conversation that I ain't gonna put out because it's personal, right? I ain't gonna betray him like that. And I'm like, well, then how is it now? Here we go months later. I'm watching you in Dearborn. You bringing a Quran out and you're smacking it with bacon and you're hating Muslims and you're saying the same things about black folks. And I thought that you was getting better. You know what I'm saying? And I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it. He called me after I did the recap of your show. He called me and I was already asleep, so I ain't answer. But I tried to call him back, he ain't answer. But I don't know if it's something off up there, bro. I don't know if it is like a psyop. I don't even know what to think about him anymore. I just know that it's wrong, and that's the reason why I call it out. I'm not trying to make fun of him or beat him down because he's Jewish or any of those things. It's just because, bro, even though we've had our differences, I consider you still like a little brother. You know what I'm saying? We lived together inside of prison. We went through a traumatic thing inside of in this prison. And I still care that, you messed up out here like this. And me as somebody who's always had a platform, I've had a platform, right? And I've always pushed unity and togetherness above everything else. And now I'm watching you do the complete opposite. And you're only calling togetherness for people who think like you about white people and people that like you that hate Muslims and people like you that don't want their daughters dating black guys. And it's like, what's going on, bro? You know what I'm saying? That's my question for him. Like, what's really going on inside your mind, bro? And I swear to you, I think it's a psyop. That's just the only thing that I can think about is that he got changed in there and he was already a part of a psyop before any of us knew it. This is my honest to God belief. Before January 6th was a psyop. He was a part of a psyop. That's what I believe, right?
Your
And
opinion.
now the psyop is just continuing. And he's changed his ideologies and he's okay with everything that he's saying because of what he went through in prison. That's where I'm at. That's how I feel.
So what's in terms of to both of you, what's the let me just click this. But what's your before this, did you guys have any kind of indication about his views, this kind of more like white nationalist Christian identity where he didn't like blacks or Muslims? Did he kind of
No,
indicate anything like that before?
not to me,
So
to Tim.
yeah, so when he was my cellmate, he was doing the whole "we got to stop the Muslims from stealing the white women" thing, stop blacks from stealing the white women thing,
He
and
said that in the cell.
this was as early as January of 2021. We got moved to DC February 3rd of 2021. And so like that element was always there, but that's why I always thought he glowed in the dark, because I'm being accused of being this thing that I'm not, and he's clearly this other thing if you even look at him.
Mm.
And then he's saying this other thing that flies in the face of that, and it's super weird. And then he starts it's he so I sent you I sent you a link. You look at like there's these weird connections he has. So like I don't know if like it's an op with like influencers. There's this chick Morgan Ariel or Ariel Morgan
I know
who's like
Morgan.
this.
So what's
Yeah,
your claim about Morgan? Because I can ask her.
he claimed that she was his fiance, and he would put her picture up in the jail
Oh
and
yeah.
claim that this chick was his. And it's just super weird because, like, if you look at her content, obviously it's anti-Zionist or whatever, but then he was totally Zionist in the jail. Which, again, if even if you fucking believe that, I don't care. But it's just like there's something weird going on
I
here
can ask
where you
Morgan,
have
but I
like,
think she might have changed her opinion. I think more, and then again, I don't know if this is true, but I remember sort of reading recently that maybe Morgan was also Jewish and then kind of changed her position. But who knows?
could be, but I have, like I said, I have text messages and old messages between the jail system to the outside where it's like she's the one communicating with my family to try to get some of his paperwork when he got sent to the hole once.
Hmm.
And so it's like I have a paper trail of this showing that this was a thing.
Hmm.
And so like why it just seems like there's a lot that's fake about him. And I'm not saying that they were actually romantically connected. He was
Hmm.
probably just name dropping her and then
Hmm.
using her picture. But that's weird. Why would
Hmm.
you do that? Um, there was a lot of there was a strain there was a thought I had there before about when we were in jail together. He kept bringing up this Hitler documentary called "The Greatest Story Never Told," which
Hmm.
was like some Holocaust denial,
Hmm.
whatever. It's like a what would you call it? Non
Revisionist.
Pseudo history.
amateur.
Revisionist.
It was like an amateur. Yeah, it was like an amateur whatever revisionist film about Hitler. I'm like, I've been on 4chan. The kind of people who even know about that, it's just like, how do you know about this?
Hmm.
Why are you name dropping this to me as my cellmate when they're accusing me of being the reincarnation of Mustache Man?
Hmm.
It's very weird. I always got weird red flags from him.
Hmm.
And I dug up because, again, I listened carefully and he doesn't remember half the shit he says. He would brag about a lot of things. And I was able to find like 10 years of scams and like fake financial things and stuff like that. I have like receipts for all this. And after I got out of prison, I just dug up like all these things. His mom was leaving fake reviews for him for like social media sites he created. And it's just like, I don't, it, Cash was right about something in terms of like we had discussed how like, oh, he's going viral now because I don't know if it is because of charisma,
Hmm.
because for years before J6 he was doing the same stuff in terms of marketing and all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
Now it's specifically when he gets out of prison, and he moves on from the J6 grifting where all this social tension, culture war stuff is making him viral. If you look
Hmm.
at his actual record before J6, he was a failed businessman.
Hmm.
He had a new scheme like every other 5 minutes, and it just seems a little unbelievable. Um, and we're not even getting into things like Flynn or anything like that.
Mhm.
It seems like you had mentioned, what's her name, that the Spanish lady who says incendiary stuff about Muslims all the time. Like that kind of stuff glows in the dark to me.
Hmm.
Like it's not
Yeah.
just marketing. I think it's intended specifically to incite social tension and pit people against each other. Because even going back to the Dearborn, Michigan thing, even if you don't like Islam, I'm not a Muslim,
Hmm.
but Dearborn, Michigan flipped for Trump If you're this MAGA person that you claim to be, why are you trying to screw up a coalition that could potentially be game changing in the future, especially in a swing state? That makes no sense. You're not even from
But a
Michigan.
14% crime level. It's not even like it's a bad city.
No. And then he goes to Texas for the Austin Metcalf thing. He's not from Texas. He moves to Florida to pretend like he's running for senator there. He's originally from New York. Right before that, though, I don't know if you remember, Cash, there were stories where he was going to run for a sheriff's office in New York. And I'm just like, well, pick a thing, dude. This is very clearly insincere. The reason really is why. At best, he's a grifter and degenerate. At worst, he's a malicious actor with, So,
psyop. Because when you're talking to when you said what you said right now about him asking you about the greatest story never told, in my mind, I'm thinking like Jake's not, and no shade to Jake, but Jake's not smart, right? And I don't think that he would even know about something like that, right? So it's like, who told you to come and ask him about this specifically, knowing his charges and like out of the blue? You know what I'm saying?
And then you leave Holocaust books for me to read in jail in DC. You weren't there for this, Cash, but me, Pat McCoy, Jeff Sable, and Jake Lang, we got moved to Grady County together. Curcio was held in the Cimarron prison a little up the road from there. That we were only in Grady County for one night. This other guy gets put in there with us. They don't even give us a cell. They just put us in the day room. We sleep on those plastic sled things. And this guy comes in there and he says he's this Trump supporting Canadian, but he's being deported because he got in a fight over Trump at the inauguration in 2017. Weirdest thing. I was at Trump's inauguration in 2017. I'm like, well, that's a weird coincidence. Him and Jake get up. He's asking everybody's details about their cases. I'm like, don't fucking tell. I'm looking at everybody. I'm like, don't fucking say it. Everybody's. I'm like, don't fucking do it. Him and Jake get up. They go to the corner of the day room. Whisper. He gets pulled out of the unit, disappears, never hear from him again. We get moved to Northern Neck. And then Jake's my cellmate. And he mentions this guy and he's like, oh, yeah, the Canadian Jew. I'm like, that dude never told us he was a Jew. What are you talking about? That's the weirdest thing to remember about him. That was super weird. And he looked like he had some facial hair, like a beard, but it looked kind of regulation, if you know what I'm saying. Brand new jeans, black, like brand new hoodie.
Bad, bro.
I think he was a Perkins informant, the kind of person you plant in a cell specifically to listen to someone. And then he had a powwow with Jake. And I talked to Sable about this like a year into like when we were in DC later, and I was like, hey, do you remember that guy who was in there with us? And he was just like, oh shit, yeah, I completely forgot about that. That is weird. And I talked to McCoy. I interviewed McCoy, Pat, about that, and he's just like, yeah, that was weird. I remember that guy. And it was I don't know, I'm just going on a tangent here, but there were these things. I have like an eidetic memory kind of, and it's just like those details all register, and I save them up, and it's just like, it's hard to say this without sounding crazy, because it's like if I didn't have half the receipts I have, nobody would believe the other half of the shit I say. But thank God I did, because people would think it's so insane. No one behaves like that. But I got the receipts.
So
yo, man.
So like weird. Another question I've got for you is one of the things he mentioned, I did watch your stream, Kash. He mentioned about like gang culture within prison, and he talked about how Muslims ran the prisons. Give the audience a bit of a kind of idea about if that's true or not.
All right. So the first thing I got to clear up is Jake ain't never been to prison. Let's clear that all the way up. He's been to jails. Okay. Jails and prisons operate differently. Okay. Jake made a statement saying that in his jail where he was at.
What's the difference between a jail and a prison?
The strictness, the rules, the conduct of inmates, how you interact with people is completely different. All right. So if you go to a prison that is, say, a USP, right? Go to a USP or a medium facility, and you got a Muslim fraction. They're on their deen, is what they'll call it. They're on their deen. They don't use drugs. They don't sell drugs. They don't do anything with boys. They not doing none of that. It's haram. They don't do it. They don't participate in it. But then you'll have the other section that's on gang time that happen to be Muslim, but maybe they GDs or they're, they folks or whatever gang, Vice Lord. But their religion is Islam. That's different. They're not on the deen. They're on gang time. Those are the ones that'll be selling drugs. We call them, they say that they practice Prislam. That's what we say. They practice Prislam. They're prison Islam. You know what I'm saying? But the extreme part of the people that are on the dean is, say somebody gets caught doing something crazy, like they're selling dope, or they doing something that they're not supposed to do. They literally give you 80 lashes, like with a wet towel. Like, they're strict in prison. If they're Sunni Muslims in prison, you're gonna get touched, right? And it's gonna be them that do it. They stay out of the beef. Now, when he was talking about the culture, the black, he said the Chicago Bloods and all. There's not a Chicago blood. This is my surrounding. There's no such thing as a Chicago blood. Chicago don't got bloods. All right. And it's not race. It's not racial. It's gang. It's gang culture. He said that he would be able to join the Aryans if he told you that. He said, I'll be able to join the Aryans, yes, because I'm white, they would accept me. They would definitely not. The moment that they found out that Jake went and kissed the wall in Israel and that his mother is Jewish and that he did the little thing with the arm, bro, they would skin him. He would not make it off the yard. So it's like, it's false. And he's educating these people, got them thinking, that he'd be accepted amongst the white. Bro, even out here, they wouldn't accept you. That's why you don't see a bunch of racists for real strict neo-Nazi racist dudes. They would not have no part of Jake. You see him online, they sharing all his stuff saying, no, this dude is Jewish. He's not one of us. They separate themselves. What the way that he described prison is false because he's never been there. You know what I'm saying? It's not racial. It's not whites hate blacks and Mexicans hate blacks and then whites hate the Muslims. And no, everybody coexists. They might not hang out, but everybody coexists. If the black guys got the drugs, then the white guys are going to deal with the black guys to get the drugs, maybe play basketball, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They have teams. It is what it is. The TVs are operated. You got the black TV, the Hispanic TV, and the white TV. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter if you're an Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle, independent white, right? The independent whites don't rock with the Aryans. But in prison, they all share the same TV. It
What's
just keeps
independent
things
white?
a little more copacetic. Huh?
What's an
It's
independent
like
white?
it's like people who
Non-racist.
they're not affiliated with a gang, they're just white, so they have
Ah.
to kind of like be
Okay.
together so that they have some organization, I guess.
Okay.
Right. And the same thing with the blacks. So if it's the blacks and the Puerto Ricans, all kick it together. You know what I'm saying? And in the black section, say, of the TV, with how the TVs are split up, you'll have one TV, say, this one's for the GDs. This one right here is for the Vice Lords, or maybe they share or whatever. And this one right here will be for the Puerto Ricans. You know what I'm saying? But we will all agree that this one TV stays on sports nonstop for everybody that likes sports. And that's how it goes. So it's like everything that he was describing about prison, it's false. It's like, it's not like how he thinks it is or how he thought it was in his jail. I don't even know if he really politicked in jail, because it didn't sound like he knew what he was talking about in the jail. When he said that there's no white bloods, like the white guy wouldn't be a blood. Bro, there's white Crips. There's white Crips. And guess where the white Crips sat in prison? Guess where he sat? With Crips. With the Crips.
Cribs
You know what I'm saying?
is the name of a gang.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it came to TV, like watching TV, the Crip could choose to sit with the whites, or he could come and sit. If it's enough Crips over there to be like, yo, he's one of us, and we know he ain't black, but he could chill. Then he'll come and sit. Even when it comes to sitting at tables, it's like the tables, even though everybody's black, we all don't sit at the same table just because it's black. You got over here's GDs, they all gonna sit. Over here, it's gonna be the Vice Lords. Over here, it's gonna be. That's how it is. The Hispanics, the same thing. MS-13 ain't sitting and hanging out with the Pisces. You know what I mean? They got their own table, even though they got the TVs. And he wouldn't know that because he's never been to prison. You know what I'm saying?
There's an interesting thing to consider too, is you have prisons that, not to muddy the waters here. So there are state prisons and there are federal prisons. And so there are places where Jake was held that were federal, what would you call them, Kash? You said
transit centers.
Yeah, so there are BOP facilities, Bureau of Prisons facilities, that he and other J6ers were held if they got transferred out of DC, for instance. And people did do time there or whatever. But what's interesting is, like, if you read the policies, just to go back to that phone thing, it's not a secret that people get contraband in jails and prisons. People get drugs, people get, you know, weapons, people get
Mm-hmm.
phones. But what's interesting is like Cash said, one, if you get caught, now everything's hot. You're hot, and that means anyone who deals with you is hot. The room is hot if you're with in a cell with other people or dorm or whatever. Nobody wants that kind of negative attention. Two, in prisons specifically, or BOP facilities, let's just say, they have regulations, and they have what's for January 6th defendants. We had what was called an enhanced monitoring program. So not only do they listen to the wall phones, like you pick the phone off the wall so you can get your authorized phone calls, ignoring cell phones.
Yeah.
Um, they listen to your official phone calls to see if you're doing anything illegal or whatever, so they can punish you. But they also, for J6ers, if you have an enhanced monitoring program,
Yeah.
they look for you online.
Mm.
So they're looking for news articles about you. They're looking for you on social media. They're looking for all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably no higher profile defendant over the past 4 years, ignoring people like Chansley because of the symbolism. The amount of people who ran their mouths and made spectacles of their cases for the past 4 years, uh, pretty much no one outshines Jake in that regard.
Mm.
So there's no way in God's green earth that the Bureau of Prisons did not know that he was using phones and he was bouncing calls through foreign countries. He would do three-way calls and bounce calls through the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's no way, which is illegal. There's
Mm.
no way they didn't know that, and especially again doing X spaces, doing interviews and all that. There's no way they didn't know that, and so why would they tolerate that?
Mm.
You know,
Special
there's no way they didn't
privileges.
know. Yeah, there's no way they didn't know. So, the question is why.
Mm. And just going back to the prison thing, he mentioned like Muslims ran the prisons. Now, in the UK, I hear something similar again from ex-prisoners, actual prisoners. They do say that Muslims kind of run the prisons in the UK. Hence why when he said about the US, I assumed it was the case as well. Is it the case, or is it a bit more complex when it comes to the US?
It depends on where you go.
Mm.
So you'll have some facilities, some federal facilities where it's mostly majority Muslims. Like when
Mm.
I went through what was it? Where was I at? Was it Oklahoma in Cimarron, right?
Cimarron.
When I was in Cimarron, I met a bunch of brothers that was Muslim,
Mm.
a bunch of them, but they were some of them was gang time, some of them was legit Muslim, some of them was gang time, right?
Mm.
And they were hoping that they would go to a facility where it was mostly Muslims, where they had the majority and they ran everything.
Mm.
But there was other prisons that you'll go to where it's white people that run it, the white gangs that got the majority rule. Other ones is Hispanics. The Latin Kings run a lot of prisons, a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's not necessarily saying that they run it, but they'll have the majority.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all prisons pretty much operate the same. All it means when you got the majority is that people ain't gonna step out of line with you. You'll be better. So the Muslims that wanted to go to a place where it was more Muslims, they wanted to go there because it was better for them to maybe not get into something because they have the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas a person that's a Spanish gangbanger wants to go where it's mostly Spanish people at, where they got the numbers to where they know they're not gonna have a rough time and have to go to war. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it comes down to. So again, he wouldn't know because he's never been through the system. And in passing, like when you go through Cimarron, a place like Cimarron, a transit facility, you meet a bunch of people that's been transferred all over, career criminals that they've been in prison and they're not getting transferred because they coming in. They getting transferred because they just stabbed somebody in the eye at their last prison. So they're getting moved. So you get to meet all these different people in passing and they telling you the game about, oh, what facility you going to? Oh, yeah, you're gonna be straight because it's up over there. And that's how it is. But to say that Muslims run all the prisons, that's just not true. Not true at
Yeah.
all.
I would, yeah, the closest you come to that, I think, Cash, is like a lot of prisons don't serve pork products because it's
Right.
because they can't eat pork. But I mean, other than that, I do think a lot of it is based on where the facility is and also the security level. Like I
Mm.
went to a low
Facts.
security, I went to a low, and like it wasn't so much gangs as cars based on your regions. You had the Philly car, the Philly people stayed together, the New York people. I think there was like a North Carolina car, which is weird in New Jersey. But
Yeah, Lowe's are fun. They're like not fun, but they're sweet. Like compared to everywhere else, Lowe's were.
yeah, it's not politics. It's people trying to do their time and get the fuck home, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not as much politics. And when there is politics, it's basically about business more than anything. You know,
You
I
also
think that's
meant
probably Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You also mentioned on your stream, you said because his claim was that Islam was the only kind of religion-based gang, but I heard in your stream you mentioned that there's actually like Christian gangs as well or something.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, you got people that are, let's say that somebody's a part of the Aryan Brotherhood, right?
Mm,
But they're not Odinist or they're not into the Norse mythology. On Sundays, you'll see them in church,
mm,
and they'll be in church with black people, brown people, just a bunch of different people. They're all in church service.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? But they have to be a part of that gang, so they're a part of that gang. But they, when it's time after church, maybe something kicks off and he got to go and stab somebody, and
mm,
he's not going to say no to doing it, regardless of his religion. And
mm,
that's just what it is. And it's the same thing. But here's the thing: like I say, when he's talking about the Muslims ain't in prison. This is in prison I'm talking about. People that are for real Muslim and practicing their religion, the only time you're gonna get them to stab you is if you violate them. If you
mm,
steal from them or you owe them a debt, and you trying to be like I ain't paying you, like you trying to home them up,
mm,
that or there's like a war going on and it's time to go. You know what I'm saying? But
mm,
they're not gonna be the ones to initiate nothing. They ain't into politics because they don't deal with drugs. They don't do drugs, they don't deal with drugs. And that's what most of the fights are over in prison is debts and drugs.
mm.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Debts and drugs. That's what gets people in trouble in prison. And so that's why they don't operate with it. But you might get a person that is a Muslim that's a GD and he's not on his deen. He's a Muslim. He says he's a Muslim. He prays, he goes to mosque, he does all of that, he reads his Quran, but he's on gang time. And he will be the one to stab you, not because he's Muslim, but because he's GD.
Mm.
And he's just on that. You know what I'm saying? So it's simple.
So another thing you mentioned about Jake Lang was that he's got a girlfriend. Uh,
Yeah,
what
Rachel.
what's her view on first of all, what's her race and what's her view on what he's doing?
Well, it's funny you say that because I had a conversation with Rachel and I asked her a question. Because Jake says that he doesn't think that white people should breed with black people or anybody that's not white.
Mm,
So I asked her, does she agree with that? And she said no, she does not agree.
mm,
And I said, cool, because if that was the case and you did agree, well, then that means that you and Jake wouldn't be able to have a baby because Jake isn't fully white.
mm,
And then I said, if Jake truly believed what he's saying about being, a white nationalist or white Nazi national, I don't know how you would say it, uh, he wouldn't be dating you right now
mm.
because he's stealing a white woman
Exactly.
from the white race.
Yeah.
Why
Committing
would
white
you, if you
genocide,
truly
as they would
believe
say.
what you're saying, yeah, if you truly believe what you're saying, why would you muddy up the white waters?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So you can't truly
according to
believe it.
that position, he's committing white genocide because now he's ended the white race from her perspective, right?
Exactly. So yeah, but no, Rachel's cool, man. I like Rachel. She's all right. She got her things, like that's her man. She gonna stand by her man. I'm sure she's
Mm,
gonna be pissed off if she's watching this right now.
mm,
But it is what it is. I respect her. Same like I told her, I said, look, I ain't got no beef with you. And I really want to see Jake do good.
mm,
I don't hate Jake. But if I don't call it to win it, this is my dynamic. I like to think about me and Jake, right? And this is how it's always been, even when we was in DC. Jake's like Lex Luthor from Superman, and I'm like Superman Prime. I don't got a kryptonite. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? I got no weakness. So when it comes to me and Jake in a battle, is all I come through and do is foil Jake's plan. I don't want to damage you. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to foil your evil plot so you don't destroy Metropolis. That's all. That's all I'm trying to do.
mm.
You know.
So Tim, in terms of yourself, what's your kind of I from listen to the bit of the stream, if I remember right, you're Christian, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
yeah, Catholic, you said.
Yeah.
So what's your
Yeah.
kind of like? Are you quite religious, or what's your kind of view?
Not particularly. Not as much as I should be.
Mm,
I don't really get into it. I do like theology as a field,
mm,
but I'm a very flawed person, though when I look at the leadership of the church, it often the popes kind of I don't want to like say anything heretical or anything, but it's like I don't agree with a lot of what I see coming out of the church
mm,
in terms of the dialogues and stuff. Um, I would I would be more inclined to yeah, I'm just not a good Christian. But I want to be clear. I don't claim to be the face of the church. I don't claim to speak for the Pope. I don't claim to speak for Catholicism, and I definitely don't pretend to be a prophet. And I'm definitely not going to rewrite the Bible.
What?
So I just want to put that out there. I don't
So,
I don't pretend to be any better a Christian than I am.
so are you still into politics or not as much? Like you can see now, things in politics are really complex.
I mean, I am. I don't have much of a choice
Mm,
because our situations are still kind of wrapped up in what's going on in the DOJ.
mm,
Um, in terms of like partisan politics, like I said, I'm an independent. I supported Trump.
mm,
I hate the Republican Party.
mm-hmm,
I hate both parties. I don't believe it's kind of like I'll believe it when I see it, sort of thing.
mm-hmm,
I think the GOP largely are just controlled opposition and gatekeepers.
mm-hmm,
I don't believe that the duopoly that we have again, I was a history guy, and so like it always like irks me that like when you look at early American history, you had like the Federalist Party, they disappeared. You had the Whig Party, they disappeared. The Democrats and the Republicans have been around for like 200 years. I
mm.
just wish they would just fuck off and go away and just like give some new blood a chance to make new parties.
Well, that was
Not
your
that that would
hope,
fix
right?
everything.
That was your hope with the MAGA, right? That was probably considered like
Yeah,
a innovative,
A lot
different.
of our hopes.
Yeah.
yeah. Like when this is gonna be a whole nother tangent. I remember we were in jail in solitary. We would have like little like debates, I guess, kind of like when the founding fathers were writing the Constitution, they were
Mm,
debating. You had things like the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist
yeah.
Papers. They were just essays bitching at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that in jail to an extent. And I have some of Jake's stupid writings. And I have my own. And I was advocating for like a labor-based party
Mm,
because I'm pro-union, but I think that there's a natural marriage that could be created between cultural conservatives and more labor-based people economically.
mm.
But that's what I would like to see happen. Not that that would
I
happen,
think
but I
that's
definitely
that that position, both in the US and the UK, is probably the position most people naturally hold, but there's no party that that basically gives you that position.
yeah.
No,
And
because
I've
they're all
noticed that
greedy and want to
too.
be rich.
Yeah, well, I think in the Anglosphere in general,
Mm.
and granted, I know there's a multi-party system in the UK and Australia and all that, but I think it effectively works similar, even though
It
it's a
is.
parliamentary system
It's the
instead of the
same. Yeah.
presidential system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, hey, look at this populist party over here that's totally not going to betray your trust in five
Mm.
seconds. I wish the best, to our brothers overseas and stuff. I think that, I've read Carol Quigley. I know about, I know how it works. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, you just got to look at who starts the parties and what interest. Like I said, politics is dirty. I recognize
Exactly.
that. I'm not an idealist. I'm a realist. I take the world
Mm.
how it is, not how I want it to be. I just, if you, it's not impossible. Years ago, people would have said us getting pardoned was never going to happen. But if you
Mm.
lobby hard enough and you put enough pressure, even if it's token gestures, you can sometimes get something good out of the system. So,
So, what's your thoughts on
not
this current split in the kind of MAGA movement or in the right wing movement? You've got basically, not to like push you into it, and don't answer if you don't want to, because based on your situation. But like you've got a major split within the right wing. You've got people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes on one side. You've got Ted Cruz, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro on the other. There's kind of been like a major split between the two to try and take control over the future of the kind of MAGA movement. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I'm not going to. I'll let Cash speak for himself on that. My perspective, as always, I think everything's fake and gay,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that I don't believe it's real. I
Mm.
think that a lot of this is just more
Psyop.
culture war within the culture war. Psyop for lack of a better term. I think that you have provocateurs and influencers who push, you know, this narrative over here, and then you
Mm.
have more establishment types like the Shapiro kind who everybody despises, and we
Mm.
all know the links that he has or whatever. But and then you have that on the one side. I think that anytime you're told to choose between two polar opposites, supposedly polar opposites, I think that's what you call a false bifurcation. And
Mm.
so I think everything is always a little more complicated than it's portrayed.
Mm.
Um, I don't again, I'm America first, not Israel first.
Mm.
I don't hate Israel in and of itself. I
Mm.
think of it as an extension of the American or post-British world empire,
Mm.
but I don't disagree that there are a lot of issues with the influence that they have, but I also, at the same time, I think every country in the world is trying to influence us, and I think that a lot of what we see on social media, call me naive, I think a lot of it is our intelligence agencies and then foreign intelligence agencies that work with them, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's Israel, because I think the Arabs, the Israelis, both compete for influence with us. I think the Chinese and the Russians and the Europeans with Ukraine and all that. I think it's all intelligence war. I think it's an information war between foreign influence. I'm going on a tangent, but
No,
I
I
think the
agree with you.
CIA.
I think every country just there's no doubt that every country tries to influence. The level of impact each country has in terms of that influence differ.
Right. And
And
why wouldn't
then
they?
sorry?
And why wouldn't they? Honestly,
Yeah.
you know, that's how the soft power of weaker countries is how they affect any change in their interest or on the world stage. That's how the world's always been. We just happen to be the big kahuna at the time.
Yeah.
But I again, I don't agree with everything Carol Quigley wrote in Tragedy and Hope and all that, but I do agree with a lot of the premises and how and why the American empire functions the way it does. But in terms of the specific actors and the right wing civil war, I'll double back and say I don't think it's genuine because I think a lot of those people you named are intelligence assets. And a lot of, especially when they were involved in January 6th too, some of them, and never got in trouble for it. That's my
Mhm.
that's my opinion.
Just got to back up my friend up. Nick is my friend, so I mean, I don't think he's intelligent, but yeah, obviously, I respect your opinion. Sorry, you were going to say, Cash? What's your thoughts on
I
that?
think I think when it comes to what we see in politics today and all these different influencers and all these splits, you got the Tucker Carlsons, and for me, all psyop. And not in the sense of like well, let me put it like this. I'm a believer, right? I believe in my Bible.
Okay.
And I believe what we're seeing, well, what's being exposed really, is that all of these governments, all of these higher up people that we don't see are influencing the masses, like not just here in the UK and China. They put all this propaganda in front of your face to keep you looking at everything other than them, the problem, the people that sit at the top and influence you to believe a certain type of way. But they prop up a person like Jake. They'll prop up a person like Candace. They'll prop up a person like Shapiro. They prop up people all over. I'm sure you in the UK, you got the people that are always on your feed saying something, saying something that's opposing to what you believe or totally in line with what you believe. And then they give you these choices, but you don't even want neither one of those choices. Like me, I don't want to see Israelis die. I don't want to see Palestinians die. I want to see people thrive. I want to see people live. I don't want to see white people hate black people or black people hate white people. I don't want to see black people say white people, you owe me reparations. And I don't want to see white people saying black people, you guys are just criminals and you don't deserve. I don't want to see that. It's fake. I don't care about Israel first or America first, or really, I don't care about none of it. Because at the end of the day, nobody's pointing the finger at the people that are causing the problems. It's simple as that. The people that are pushing the media, the frenzy that you have inside of your mind that makes you go crazy, that makes you say, oh, we gotta hate Muslims, we gotta hate Israel, we gotta love Israel, we gotta kiss their feet. Whatever the case is, we gotta worship Trump, or we gotta stand against Trump. It's irrelevant for this one thing. In the Bible, and I know I ain't trying to make this religious, but in the Bible, it says that in the last days that a strong delusion was going to fall on man, and that it would even deceive the very elect if God had not cut the days short, right? And then the last days that the love of most was going to grow cold, and that people were going to be lovers of themselves and lovers of money. They'll sell out their own mama. Fathers going to turn against sons, sons against the mothers, and it's going to be chaos. And people are going to despise the truth, and they're going to love what's evil, and they're going to call evil good and good evil. And that's what we see happening right now all over the world. It's not just in the United States. You got people that'll get on here and they'll hate the UK. They'll point to the UK and say, this is what they're using for the Islamophobia over here, right? They'll say, Look at what they've done in the UK. Look at how they've invaded the UK, and the UK is tough. And then they get everybody scared over here in America, but you forget America's a whole different nation with a whole different set of rules than the UK. You know what I'm saying? What sets us apart over here than over there is what? We got the right to keep and bear arms. You know what I'm saying? And people forget that and they just run with the mass, the mass telling that's being told and sold all over social media. And then they get these people. And this is why I say that Jake is so dangerous, not just to how people view, Islam, or how people view black people or white people, but how people view good and evil and Christianity and all of these things. Think about this. I said this when I was breaking down your video. If Jake was the only impression that somebody had of a white person and they're not white, right? They're going to say, this is why I don't like white people. And then he said he attaches himself to Trump and he's doing all of this because Trump set him free. And then people will say, this is why we shouldn't have never trusted Trump. Look at what he released upon the streets. And then he does what he's doing and attaches himself to Christ. And then these non-believers or these pagans or these atheists or Muslim people or Jewish people look at him and say, this is why we'll never become a Christian. But then on the flip side of that, the people say, no, he's Jewish. So now he's attached to, and now all the Muslims and all the conspiracy people say, this is why we don't trust Israel. You see what I'm saying? How deep it goes. And these are the type of people that they push in front of your face to cause that one specific thing that I'm talking about, that confusion, that delusion inside of their mind to say, I don't like whatever it is that he's attaching himself to because I don't like his message. But the most dangerous part about it is the people that fall for it, that fall for his delusion and say, I'm with him in the cause because I'm a Christian too. And I believe that way. I should not I should not trust black people because they are the problem. I should hate those Muslims because they are invading our country. I don't want my country to be like the UK. And they start to think like him. It's the same thing with a Nick Fuentes. It's the same thing with a Candace Owens. It's the same way with a Ben Shapiro. A Ben Shapiro is just the opposite side of it. They're all the same to me. All of them are a part of a psyop, and it's not to destroy a country, to keep people away from God, to keep people away from knowing God. That's what I think.
No, I respect your opinion, but obviously I told you in the next month, friend, I don't think he's part of the psyop. I can see why people would think that because of the level of impact he's having. In terms of like Christianity, what kind of what sect are you? What type?
I don't got a sect. I just believe my Bible.
Okay.
Funny thing, I like Tim. I love theology, so I've studied and when I was in DC, I was practicing Islam. I was going and sitting down with the imam, talking to reading the Quran and all of that, praying 5 times a day, doing Ramadan, all of it. I practiced it, and so I study all religions, but the one that's rang true to me was the word Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to tell you this, man. All right, because I know you've studied the Quran like you are a Muslim.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you what I told the imam that I was speaking with, and who, by the way, he actually is in seminary school now. Believe it or not, the imam that was in DC is in freaking seminary school, dog. Pretty crazy. But when I was having discussions with him, I can't really say that I was Muslim. I can't really say that because I couldn't bring myself to deny that Jesus is the Son of God. So even though I was practicing Islam and reading the Quran and studying, I had that argument within myself, like, I can't really reject this because this is my core, right? Yeah. But I came across a verse in the Quran, and it says that I don't know how to pronounce it right in Arabic, but it says that Allah created Jesus or Isa by the word. He said be, and he was. Right? That's in the Quran?
Yeah.
Okay.
The God breathed.
And then I asked the imam, I said, could it be that maybe it's just a translation thing that's got people at odds when it comes to this? And he said, well, what do you mean, brother? I said, well, because in the Bible, it says that Jesus is the only begotten Son of God. And he said, yes, we don't believe that Allah has any children. I said, I know that. But that's not what that's saying in the Bible. It's saying that God created him in the womb of Mary by saying be. He was his begotten son. He doesn't have an earthly father. He has God created him, right? And in the Quran, it says that Allah created him by saying be.
Mhm.
So Jesus got here by the be,
Mm.
spoken word, the begotten son, and it blew his mind. I say maybe it's just a translation error because no Christian believes that God sexually impregnated Mary.
Mhm.
We know that he came with a word. Gabriel told Mary, "You are with child,"
Mhm.
because God said so. He said be, and he was. And we believe the same thing. So then could it be that it's just a translational thing? And
For
he
Christians, you mean?
blew away. Huh?
Do you mean for Christians?
No, for Muslims. Because Muslims believe that Christians are polytheists, right?
Yeah.
Right. They believe they're polytheists because they believe that there's three different gods,
Yeah.
right? Right. And it's not the case. It's just like a misunderstanding. And they believe that it's forbidden to believe that God has a son,
Yeah.
right? But it's not in the sense it's the same verbiage that is used in the Quran.
So
God
if
said be and he was.
yeah, so if
So
Christians, yeah, sorry, sorry, did you finish? So if Christians believe that God said be, and therefore Christ was, and
mhm,
therefore he's a miracle, as in he
mhm.
did not have relations with Mary, and it was a miracle in itself, then that, without a doubt, is the Muslim position. I think where the
That's what
kind
we
of
believe.
yeah, but I think where the separation occurs is the Christian position in this Trinitarian position, which is that actually, so Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit, all three are. I know they don't believe modally, and so they'll say we're not polytheists because we don't believe it in a modal sense, but they believe that there are three. What the best way of saying it is three aspects of God, and therefore all three are God, and so that's where the disagreement is, and that's where my position as well is, because I don't believe God as an entity, and this is why I disagree with even some Muslims who hold this position. But I don't believe that God as an internal being can be within creation, and I believe that from a theological perspective. So, for example, a
Mm.
creation cannot be within a creator, cannot be within creation. A creation cannot have a beginning and an end. A creator has to be internal. And so when one believes that Jesus is God, and what you call it again, the Holy Spirit is God, and God is God, that's the three aspects of God. And so that's where the disagreement is in terms of from the Muslim position. Now, the counter to that position is, you could say, for example, I know like there's a sect within Islam, like Salafis, who do believe in this kind of,
Mhm.
that God could possibly be within creation, and they'll deny it, but then they do believe in certain aspects. And so I don't agree with their position as well. But so bringing it back to this point is, whenever, so within creation, so creation in itself has a beginning and an end. And anything that has a beginning or anything that has an end experiences death. So death is like, for example, when you have an end, you die. The Christian position on Jesus is that the body died, but the soul kind of didn't die. But they believe that Jesus was, or breathe, like Jesus was, there was a start point for Jesus, which was his birth, in terms of from the human aspect of it. And so that's where this kind of differentiation or separation
No,
of
I
the
get
positions.
I
Yeah.
get the I get the argument that is made there. And it's
Yeah.
just but here's my thing. It's like that thing shouldn't separate anybody. And that's the beautiful part like I love about being in America.
Yeah.
Right? You have your position and I have my
For
position
sure.
because I think you're under the way that you understand it. I can't explain it to you like the way that I believe it
Yeah.
because your mind is set to believe how you believe. And this is why I love studying like all religions. I've
Yeah.
studied everything, right?
Yeah.
And
Same.
this one
Same.
holds
My
yeah, this
expertise
one
is
holds
actually, before I became big on Twitter, my expertise is actually theology and philosophy.
I love it.
So, for example, my MA thesis was about the eternity of the universe, and then my PhD was on free will. So it's so yeah. But sorry, do continue.
No, you're good. No, I love it. But the beautiful part about over here in America, right,
Yeah,
is that you have your belief and I have my belief, and I don't hate you for your belief.
for
I
sure.
could still look at you and say, you're my brother.
Yeah,
And let me ask you this with me, right? Me being a Christian or a believer, I'll say, because today when you say Christian, you think of people like Jake, and I don't want to be a believer, right?
yeah.
And in Christ.
Mm-hmm. No, when I think of
Do
Jake, I think of a Jewish guy. But sorry, to continue.
would you want to do me harm because I don't believe the same as you?
No, not at all. I think Christians and Muslims are very similar, and I was like a big pusher of the Christian Muslim Alliance. That's actually how I got to know Nick, because we met and we were like, "Oh, Christian Muslim Alliance," and it went viral, and people got upset. Nick Fuentes, and it went viral, and people got upset. So no, I believe Islam and Christianity are very similar, both from a religious perspective, respect to Jesus. Christians believe Jesus is God, divine. Muslims believe Jesus is divinely inspired. They both believe in the miraculous birth. They both believe in the purity of Mary. Like there's just so much similarities between them. And actually, Muslim eschatology actually is, eschatology, like the end of
Hmm.
times.
Yeah.
So in Jewish eschatology, they actually believe that during the end of times, um, there's going to be an event that occurs, and what's going to happen is the two entities, Muslims and Christians. The Muslims were nice to the Jews, so therefore Muslims are going to get to be the slaves, and Christians were horrible to the Jews, so Christians are going to be eradicated and wiped out. The
Hmm.
Muslim position, funny enough, is that Muslims and Christians are going to have a major alliance, and they're going to actually fight a war together on the same side against a third entity. Now, people for a long time have thought, who is that third entity? For a long time, people thought maybe it's the Chinese. So people are trying to figure out who is this entity going to be. Now I'm starting to think it might be the Zios, but anyway, that's a separate point. But there is going to be this alliance, and then there's going to be a disagreement. But that's they're going to fight then, and that's when the Antichrist is going to come. So the Muslim eschatological position actually is that there is going to be a major alliance between these two groups. So I'm very much for and support the Muslim Christian alliance. I just think they're very similar.
I just want to say this as a believer, right? And this is for me, and I guess all believers really. We believe that God is God
Yeah.
and that Jesus is God in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just got to understand, like, God stepped literally out of eternity to show man, yo, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I'm gonna show you how to do this, and y'all, they executed him and put him up, did the right thing, and he basically, for me, this is how I believe it. He just showed us you shouldn't have no fear of death. You have no fear of death. You live right all the way until you go, and people are gonna hate you for it. They're gonna despise you for my name's sake. They're gonna say all kind of evil things about you. But look it, I've overcome the world. I've overcome the world, and now I'm going back. You know what I'm saying? That's personally my belief. But even so, I know you would disagree with that. But
But I agree with elements of that, not in terms of the God aspect, but I believe this world is finite. And in this world, you need to be the best person you can be, because the aim of the game, if you call it like that, is that you want to become an elevated soul. You want to become an elevated being, because the aim is that you want your soul, not physically, but to connect to God, to have that connection where you basically transcend this earth into this higher realm or this higher, situational plane. So, I mean, I agree with that position in terms of the finite nature of this life and why you need to maximize it to the best of your ability.
yeah, man, the beautiful part. I'll leave it with this before we can move on. But the beautiful part that I'm learning even more, like, I learn something new every day, man. Especially reading your word and you praying. But the beautiful part about being a believer, right, is that I'm understanding that there is literally nothing that I could do to earn my way into eternity. You know what I'm saying? With God, there's nothing that I could do. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mess. When you look at my past, it'll show you I'm a horrible person. I'm imperfect. I'm imperfect. Every day I'm imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never, ever be perfect. And learning to accept that I'm not going to be perfect, and just accepting the grace that is given to me by God because of what Christ did when he came.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that gets me in. That, and then doing what he said, trying to walk, just trying my best to walk right.
Mm.
And there's nothing, no amount of good deeds, no amount of things that I could do. That verse in the Bible, I don't know if you're familiar with it. When I re-understand this verse now differently.
Mm.
When he used that verse, he says, many are going to come to me in that day and say, Lord, didn't I cast out demons in your name? Didn't I prophesy in your name? I did all these good things in your name. And he says, away from me, you worker of iniquity, I never knew you. And I always thought that to be the just believers and all of that. But now I'm realizing that it's people that thought it was because of what they did.
Mm.
thinking that because you got these good works that you did in my name, that somehow that's what gets you in. You missed it.
Mm.
What gets you in is just accepting that you're not worthy to get in. You're
What was the second
imperfect.
part of the verse? Sorry.
He says, Lord, didn't I? Didn't I? He say, didn't I prophesy in your name?
Yeah.
Didn't I do all these good works in your name? Didn't I cast out demons in your name?
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is going to look at them and say, away from me, you worker of iniquity, you worker of sin. I never knew you. I never knew you. And it's not because
Well, away from me,
that
you were a worker of sin.
yeah, away from me, you evildoer. I never knew you. I never knew you. You saying you know me, but I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought
Okay.
that it was because of their good works that they could get into heaven. That's what I'm saying. It's not it for me. Like, this is my belief. It's not about any of that. Yes, try to do good works, but don't think that that's what gets you into heaven. What gets you into heaven, or what gets you in the presence of God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that you accept that you're imperfect and you can't do nothing to get there, and just do your best, because we're imperfect. We weren't created perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We're imperfect. We're tainted, all of us, right? And that's why I say what I say about Jake, even though he pisses me off, bro. He pisses me off, right? To no end. He really does.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping the same thing for him that I hope for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody, even you. Like, you're Muslim and that's your faith. But I'm sure, like, me after this conversation, when you pray, you might say, Allah, man, have a reckoning with this brother, bring, what I'm saying, whatever you'll say. And I would be saying the same prayer for you. I'm saying, man, God, have a reckoning with this brother, let him know you, let him have an experience with Christ. But that's the same prayer that I say for Jake. That's the same prayer that I say for everybody. I want people to just try to bet their best to do good if they say that they're in Christ. And that's why I get so frustrated with Jake when he says that he's in Christ. And I pick on him when it comes to it, because that's who I'm supposed to correct. People that say that they're a part of the body. You ain't doing right. You're not representing right, bro. And
So,
that's
like,
it.
the verse you mentioned, like, the way I see it, and I think it is applicable on Jake, funny enough, is that you can do certain actions that overtly seem religious. For example, evangelizing or trying to, bring people to God. But in reality, those actions aren't those. It's about the intention or the reason why you're doing it. So some will do it maybe because they want to get fame like Jake, or they might want to get a better ranking in society, or they might want to get a better situation. The intent isn't right. And so that's why those actions are alien to God, and God doesn't accept them because, I never saw you. I didn't accept it. And therefore, the intent is the most important thing. And the real, so when you do an action, you do it in order to either please God, or you do it because it's the right reason, and being a good, righteous person also pleases God. And I just, like, this is why I think, like, I just slightly differ in the sense of, I do think actions are important, because if actions weren't important, then it would be like there's no reason for creation. Then I guess from the Christian sense, the sole reason for creation is just to believe in Jesus. And after that, I guess your actions don't matter because you've been saved. But from my perspective, like, each action does matter, because in the sense of every single thing you do elevates you closer to God, brings you towards righteousness, brings you towards heaven. And so, as someone who does actually believe in absolute free will, I think that is the reason for creation, is to give you that free will in order to use your intellect. And by the way, this is my position, because I know
No, I get it. I get
some
it.
of my positions do differ from the, like, mainstream Islam position as well, in a sense, because I'm
see.
not like a blind follower. If something doesn't make sense to me logically, I'm always trying to figure out, like, what's
Right.
the actual position. So and so I'd say that's what it is. But sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, it's the truth. What you're saying is real. But the thing I'll say is, what my belief is, like, it's not that good works don't matter. They definitely do. It says that faith without works is useless. In the same way, works without faith means nothing, right? So definitely your works mean something, but it doesn't get you into the presence of God. That's the whole thing. That's my position.
Vanity.
What do you mean
All
into
Yes.
do you mean into presence? Do you mean into heaven, or
When well, what if you want to call it heaven?
Okay.
I'm a person that believes that when we all going to be here. He says that the meek shall inherit the earth. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got this thought about going to heaven, but when I read the Bible, he says that the earth is going to be made new and we're going to be here.
Oh,
You know
yes,
what I'm saying?
heaven's
On
gonna
earth.
be on earth. Okay, yeah.
Right. So I just say in the presence of God, right? But that's semantics. But the thing is that you can't, he says a good tree can't bear bad fruit and a bad tree can't bear good fruit. And you will know who his followers are by their fruit. So obviously actions definitely matter. But you come into error when you think that your actions is going to be the thing that gets you in the presence of God. There's people that do a whole lot of good that don't got God.
So just to be clear, I should go on a fake hunger strike to show that I'm fasting for everybody else to see.
That'll get you in. That'll get you in.
That's what I thought. That's right. Hell yeah.
This is great. This is good talk, man.
Yeah.
This is good.
Look, I appreciate you both coming on. I think we got a lot of information there. Is there where can people, let's go Kash first. Kash, where can people find you?
On YouTube, I'm Kash Kelly, like my name, KashKelly with the number 1. On Facebook, The Real Kash Lee Kelly. And on X, Kash Lee Kelly 1.
Right, guys, do give him a follow on all of those 3 channels. And Tim Hale, where can people find you?
You can find me on X. My tag is Lewis of Monmouth. If you don't want to type out something pretentious, you can just search for Tim Hale, criminally funny J6er.
Nice. And that's on X. And you're not on YouTube or anything?
Yeah, on YouTube, I'm also Tim Hale. I think it's criminally funny J6er there too.
What kind of content are you producing on YouTube?
Not as much as I'd like to. I largely just clip interviews and stuff like that. When I got out, I started sharing a lot of evidence and stuff, and I went on like kind of a media tour. But I do speeches and stuff when I do it. We have like January 6th events, and so I clip some of that. So if people want to hear another side of January 6th, they can look that up and they can see that there too. Definitely.
And Kash, what type of content do you produce?
I talk a lot about politics, life, and I'm a cinematographer. So I like to make little funny videos with my kids, and we put together little short films, and I just create, content. Try to make people smile, brighten the day up. But I talk about current events and real life issues.
Nice. Right, guys. Everyone do give both of these guys a follow. Really nice conversation. I enjoyed it. I thought I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I mean, I expect it to be good, but not this good. It was brilliant. So I appreciate both. Wait, you're not trying to do your... Listen, you're not allowed. You're not doing. Don't get us cancelled. Don't get us cancelled.
I disavow that. I disavow.
What? Anyway, much appreciated. Appreciate you guys.
It's the lighting.
No, this is dope, man. God bless you, brothers. Bro. I really appreciate you having us on, man. And yeah, we gotta do it again.
Definitely, we'll do it again. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Godspeed, noble voice.